Hey everybody, before we get into episode 300, I'd like to take a moment to just talk about the show and say thank you to a bunch of people. Unfortunately, I'm losing my voice from working at Game Expo this past weekend, and I was like, maybe this isn't going to sound very good. But then I thought it kind of fits the tone of Remember the Game, that some 300 episodes later, the audio still isn't very good. My voice still sounds like I'm battling puberty. You're probably going to get some squeaks, and it's just rough around the edges, like everything else involving Remember the Game. So please bear with me, all right? On July 3rd, 2018, I published the first episode of my new gaming podcast, Remember the Game. My buddy Chris and I did about a 25-minute review of Super Mario World, and I infamously said at the end of the episode, no one is going to listen to this anyway. 6 years later, this little weed has grown into Canada's #1 video game podcast. We have been downloaded millions of times, listened to all around the world, and built a group of people that I genuinely think don't suck. There's been a few assholes, but thousands of hot dogs have come together to talk and play video games and form what I consider to be one of the most welcoming, friendly, and fun communities on the internet. On a personal level, you all have changed my life. These podcasts have made me a better comedian and performer. I have so much more confidence behind a microphone than I did 6 years ago. I've met great friends, had insane experiences, and built a career out of something that I love. To have a chance to do what you're really passionate about for a living is one of the greatest things anyone can experience, and I have that opportunity because of you. I will never be able to properly thank all of you for your support. When I'm down, you reach out and pick me up. My dog has been sick, and I wish she knew that there are hundreds of people from all around the world messaging me and asking about how she's doing. I've been sent postcards and generous gifts from people I've never met just because they enjoy listening to me talk about something I'd be talking about anyways, which is video games. And of course, some of my friends have given up their valuable time to come on the show and help it get where it is now. In order of appearance, I don't think I missed anyone. Boy, I'm sorry if I did. Chris, Mark, David, Miklos, Ben, Kevin, Tyler, Andre, Kyle, Patrick, Ethan, Ty, Daniel, Rob, Darren, Brad, Bradley, Alex, Nicholas Pickles, Thaddeus, Summoning Salt, Tim, Kate, Joe Buck, Mike, Doug, Keegs, Majot, Josh, Joe Gillespie, Captain N, Eddie, and Craig. Thank you all for spending your time playing and talking about these old games with me. To all of you that have sponsored an episode of Remember the Game, or come by my Stollery Children's Hospital Extra Life streams and made generous donations just for the chance to give me a call and talk video games, thank you so much. Since Remember the Game launched, we have raised over $70,000 for the Stollery Children's Hospital here in Edmonton, and we've grown into one of the biggest Extra Life contributors in Canada. It is the thing I am the most proud of as far as anything I have done, not just with this show, but probably on my 40 years the 40 years I've spent on this planet. I've published 300 episodes of Remember the Game, along with 169 Rambling Idiots, 56 Purple Monkey Dishwashers, 191 game patches, and 234 expansion passes, for a grand total of 950 podcasts in the last 6 years. Was this whole blurb just a giant brag? Yeah, probably it was. But I'm pretty fucking proud of everything Remember the Game has done. And it all started with a conversation at a kitchen table about a stupid game that I spent way too much time playing as a kid. If you're out there thinking about starting a podcast, or a Twitch stream, or a YouTube channel, or you want to write a book, or learn something new, or lose weight, or get a new job, or whatever the fuck, just do it. Just start. Go into it with a good attitude, and just focus on getting better, improving yourself, and having fun. Some of you have told me that I've inspired you to start podcasting or streaming or whatever, and it's the most humbling thing anyone has ever said to me. I'm proud of you, and you should be proud of you too. Fuck the haters. Get out there and be who you want to be. Do what you want to do. It's your life. I don't know when Remember the Game is going to end. Maybe 6 months from now, you'll all stop listening to me. Maybe I'll get sick of doing these. But we're 6 years in, and I still have a lot of video games I want to review. So thanks for listening to me suck my dick, and here is to 300 more. On behalf of Molly, Shaylee, and myself, we are so fucking grateful to all of you. Thank you so much, and enjoy Remember the Game number 300. Let's go. What's up, everybody? Welcome back to Remember the Game. It is my retro gaming podcast where every week a buddy of mine and I sit down and we geek out about the games we played back in the day. My name is Adam Blank. Thank you so much for listening to the show. And this week it is episode 300. And with a milestone episode, we need a milestone game. And I know some of you are going to argue this isn't retro, but I give about as many fucks as Daryl Strawberry did about Homer's reduced playing time. We are talking The Last of Us, and full disclosure, we're spoiling everything. So if you haven't played this yet, I highly recommend pausing this episode, going and experiencing the phenomenon that is The Last of Us, and then coming back and joining us all sucking the dick of Joel, because this game is the best. If you're new to this show, you've probably gotten the impression, but I'll tell you right now, I love this game. If you've been around for a while, you already know. I love this game. I didn't get a PS3 when they came out. They were too expensive, and I wasn't really gaming much at that time anyway. I ended up picking up an Xbox 360 about halfway through that generation, and then about a year before the PS4 dropped, I grabbed a PS3 on the cheap. And I ended up getting the Uncharted games with it, and I'd heard so many good things. I played through them. They were awesome. And then The Last of Us came out from the same studio as Uncharted. It was getting perfect 10s all over the place. So I went out, I bought it, I played it. And when I was done, I thought to myself, that might have been the finest video game I have ever played. And now 11 years later, I've bought it 3 times on 3 consoles because I'm Adam, part of the problem blank. I have played through it half a dozen times, and I still feel that it might be the finest video game I've ever played. Aside from Super Mario World and Tetris, this is my favorite video game of all time. I know not everybody loves it, and as someone that's thrown shade at some popular games over the years, I'm not going to judge you. Love who you love. But I just don't get how someone doesn't enjoy this game. The gameplay, the graphics, the voice acting, that fucking story. It is a masterpiece. And a masterpiece of a game calls for a masterpiece of a guest. Unfortunately, none were available. So pending Remember the Game Hall of Famer Mark McCue is in the hot seat this week. And we spent an hour and a half gushing over the brilliance that is The Last of Us. And we'll get there in just a minute, because speaking of brilliance, you know what it is, I know what it is. It's time for another edition of the Remember the Game infamous intro. And if you're new to the podcast, welcome aboard and consider this your warning. Our intros are kind of long, but they're fun, and they're not half as scary as a clicker is. Also, I'm going to try something new. I'm going to be squishing the plugs and stuff down this week. So give it a shot. Listen, it's going to be quicker. If you do want to skip it, go to about the 25, 30-minute mark. You'll be able to tell when we're into The Last of Us. But I recommend just giving it a listen. We talk video games and stuff. It's a lot of fun. Let's see how fast we can get the plugs done. I'm going to try something new here. We are running a merch sale to celebrate 300 episodes until the end of July. You can save 20% on all of our merchandise at rememberthegamepodcast.com with promo code MOLLY300. And we have lots of great merch. Hoodies, t-shirts, coffee mugs, posters, all designed by my man Joe from 4545 Creative. Check it out at rememberthegamepodcast.com. And of course, if you don't like clothes, I get it. Check us out on Patreon, perhaps. Our Patreons get up to 4 ad-free podcasts each week. We have a Simpsons podcast. We have a vlogging podcast. I have a gaming news show. And we have a video game potpourri show called Expansion Pass. On that one, we do rankings. We look back at characters and consoles. There's modern game reviews. There's comedy episodes. This past week was Expansion Pass 216. And we had some fun with an episode called Molly's Paw. It was based on the cursed monkey's paw, which grants you a wish, but curses you in the process. So patrons wrote in with their gaming wish, and I told them how it would come true, but also how it would blow up in their face. And as is becoming tradition, here is a sneak peek of last week's episode of Expansion Pass, Molly's Paw. Lotus wrote in and said that turn-based RPGs will make a comeback in a hardcore way, both tactical and standard. All right, so JRPGs are now the biggest gaming genre in gaming, both tactical and standard. Everybody can't stop playing JRPGs, and you fucked us, Lotus, because AEA saw what a big deal JRPGs had become, bought the rights to the fucking genre, and now literally every JRPG out there is just riddled with micros. You have to pay to attack now. You literally take turns buying microtransactions. All because they had to be the biggest franchise and EA scoped them up. Way to go, Lotus. So that's now available in our archives. And this week it's Expansion Pass 217. People have been crying for another video game draft. I know how popular those episodes are. So that's what we did. The 4 folks that have appeared on Remember the Game the most, Mark McCue, Chris, Tyler, and Bradley, had to draft a library of games, but they could only pick from the titles we've talked about on Remember the Game over the last 6 years. They had categories to fill, sports game, RPG, etc., and could only pick one game per franchise as well. It was a good time, and that'll go live tomorrow for all of our Patreons if you want to check that out. And we'll be donating some money to the charity of the choice of whoever gets the most votes for drafting the best lineup. You know how it works by now. So again, Patreon subscription start at $3 a month. You get new episodes each week, instant access to hundreds of ad-free archive bonus podcasts. Plus, you can join our Discord. You get a chance to vote on our Patreon polls every month. You get the ability to submit comments for all of our shows. You can DM with me, and you even get a shout out and get to hear me mispronounce your name like I'm about to do to most of these people. A huge thank you to our newest Patreons, Misery Guts, LV, Dadenstein, that's Mike for you, Jacob Sparks, Ty B, and George RMN. Thank you all so much for the support, and welcome to Remember the Game Industries. You can find that at patreon.com/rememberthegame. Don't forget, we donate 5% of that to the Stollery Children's Hospital every year as part of my 24-hour extra live stream. And if you sign up for an annual subscription, you will save your 12th month's fees. And then finally, you can see me over on Twitch whenever I get over there to play old games, twitch.tv/rememberthegame. That's enough blowing myself. Let's blow some of you by blowing in some cartridges. It is our opening segment here on the show. I read a few comments and questions from our Patreons, usually gaming related, but not always. And we call this segment Blowing in the Cartridge.
He blows all right. He blows big time.
That's it, honey. Get into the spirit.
Let's blow. Our first blower this week is Kareem the Dream, who said last week on Game Patch, you mentioned that you weren't going to play Metal Gear Delta, and it sounded like you were very serious about it. For the uninitiated, I'm just curious. What's your beef with Metal Gear? I would recommend, for the long answer, I would go back and listen to our Metal Gear Solid 2 and 3 episodes. For the short answer, and this is why I'm not going to throw shade at people that don't like The Last of Us, because everybody dislikes something. I just don't like Metal Gear. I just find them boring. And I don't like the story, and I hate the stealth. And that ladder in Metal Gear Solid 3 can eat my ass, and Raiden from Metal Gear Solid 2 can eat what's left. Metal Gear Solid 1 it doesn't have to eat my ass, but I don't want it to come over for dinner. I just decided I'm done with those games. I don't like them, and I'm sick of getting yelled at by people who do when I say I don't. So that's the short answer. So no, I think it looks great, and I'm sure people are going to love it, but I will not be playing Metal Gear Solid Delta. No, thank you. And I guarantee you some people are just turning the episode off right now. They're like, fuck this guy. Yeah, that's fine. Sven Vasquez said, I came here to stir up some shit with the hockey madness. I'm from Florida, but I'm a Tampa Bay Lightning fan. I'm impressed that the Panthers got far at all. Tropical climate versus icy climate. It always gets me how Florida even has two hockey teams. No question, just wanted to bring it up. You know what? I think part of the reason Florida has the main reason Florida has two hockey teams is because Gary Bettman wants the league to look like it's in all the major markets in the U.S. But also, I think players want to play there. Florida's been to 5 straight Cup finals between the Lightning and the Panthers. And players want to play there. I'd play there. I'm a Montreal Canadiens fan and a born and raised Canadian who loves his country. And if I was an NHL caliber player and any team in Canada was offering me a contract, or Florida or Tampa Bay were offering me a contract, I'm taking the deal in Florida or Tampa Bay. Nice weather. I can go out on my days off and not get mobbed by fans. It just sounds, and aren't taxes like nothing there? Good for Florida, man. I mean, but I guess game 5 is tonight, the day I'm recording this. So, the Florida Panthers might be the Stanley Cup champions by the time this goes live. Good for them. If it happens, good for them. George RMN said, hey, Adam, I've waited for months for this episode to come, and I'm happy to have joined your community for this wonderful occasion. I've been listening to your show since a little after my daughter was born, and I needed something to listen to while I organized my family's move from a small townhouse to a much larger home. I now listen to your podcast while walking my dog, and I always wonder if I could do what you're doing. I have autism, and I can sometimes come across as fairly socially awkward, and I'm afraid if I started, I'd experience the same kinds of social rejection that I get in person. I guess if there's a question in all of this, how have you been able to manage your fears of social rejection with all that you do, and somehow pull off being able to poke fun at yourself and your show without it ever being taken seriously? I think that's if you don't know, I actually get really nervous around people I don't know, which is funny because as a comic, you would think I'm used to it, but I'm fine if I'm on stage just telling jokes, but when I have to meet people and shake hands and kiss babies and that kind of stuff, if you've ever met me, I've tried to be nice, but I'm very nervous. I'm more scared of you than you are of me. Don't tap the glass, etc. You know what I tell people, George, when they ask about doing stand-up or this or anything is 90% of the people out there don't have the balls or the drive to even attempt to do what you're doing as a comedian or a creator or whatever the fuck. So I genuinely just don't give a shit what they think. I care what people that like the show think when they feel like they've been slighted or, you know, they're like, you know, hey, here's some good feedback. That matters a lot to me. But if someone's just like, Adam Blank's a piece of shit, a rambling idiot, his intros suck, he sucks, fuck his face, fuck his voice, fuck him, what a loser. I'm like, okay, well, all right, have fun in your life where you're on the internet just being a piece of shit. I don't really care what you think. So I know it's not that easy for everybody, but that's all I say is just fuck what they think. Like, why lose any time losing sleep over what someone who you don't even like fucking thinks anyways? Or as Tony Soprano said, who gives a fuck what people say when they don't have the balls to say it to your face? So I say just do it, George, and fuck them. Just fuck them. Fuck them all. Fuck them. Fuck them. Fuck them. Good luck. Hot Cheese Sauce said, happy 300th episode. I'd like to issue a special Play One, Remake One, Erase One with the games you reviewed on episodes 1, 100, and 200. So that's Super Mario World, Halo 2, and Final Fantasy Tactics. All games received high scores from you, so I'd be interested to see what you'll do. That is tough, but I will play Halo 2 because I fucking love that game, and yeah, and I have access to it, and I've got the regular plus the Master Chief Collection version. I'll play Halo 2. I will remake Final Fantasy Tactics and just release it on Switch so I can fucking play it there. And then I'll erase Super Mario World, which is normally what I do when Mario World pops up in this. I adore Mario World. Everybody knows that. But I've played that game so many times that it could be, like, deleted from the internet forever, and I'd still be able to play it in my head. Plus, I still have, like, 300 awesome Mario games. So, yeah. That's where it has to go, unfortunately. So play Halo, remake Tactics, erase Super Mario World, unfortunately. Lee Carvello's putting challenge said, Adam, it's time to get to the important debates. Boneless or bone-in wings? Bone in, all right? You people, look, I like boneless wings, but boneless wings are just chicken nuggets. And it's time for some of you to just admit that. It's fine. You like nuggets more than you like wings. There's nothing wrong with that. But boneless wings aren't wings. They're chicken nuggets. So bone in if I'm getting wings. Adam Blank's hairy left nipple said, Adam, congrats on your 300 episode. My question is a hypothetical. After 300 episodes, Nintendo finally catches onto your use of their music. I think catches onto their use of their music. And due to their crack team of killer lawyers, you're now on death row. What is your final meal going to be? If I ever get sent to death row because of this podcast, my last meal will be hot dogs and meat on the bone and pudding that you're apparently supposed to eat. But if I ever get put to death row for some other reason, then I'm getting the biggest steak possible and a giant, like a whole apple pie with vanilla ice cream and a couple bottles of wine and a bottle of scotch and 2 baked potatoes and a loaf of fresh bread. And just because I really like it, some Reese peanut butter cups. Yeah, that's good shit. Silver Grunion said, Dear Adam, great podcast. Question. In episode 1, you jokingly said not to expect too much of the show and referenced even the first episode of Seinfeld sucked. Did it, though? I'd argue it remains the most relevant storyline still in 2024. Women giving mixed signals, what all the handshakes and weird hugs mean, and how to tell if someone likes you. I also just identify with Kramer coming over to Jerry's house unshaven in a bathrobe with 2 pieces of bread and asking, you got any meat? That's it. Keep up the great work. And if you need any sugar, here. Sorry, it's not in packets. Shout out if you get that reference. Great comment. Dude, the first episode of Seinfeld, like, I don't think it's particularly good compared to the future ones, but that's mostly just because, like, we don't have Elaine yet, and George isn't his normal, like, he's a wiener in that episode, but he isn't the complete piece of shit that George becomes in later seasons. But you are right. Compared to a lot of episodes of Seinfeld, the first one does kind of hold up as far as being topical. I'll concede that point. Bone on the Meat said, hey, Blank, why don't you have a Canadian accent? I just got back from a fishing trip about an hour north of the border, and I heard a boot at least 20 times. Is that a rural thing? You know, in 40 years, I don't think I've ever heard a Canadian say a boot. So it might be. It might just be some weird-ass Hickville fucking town you went fishing in. But I do get a lot of messages from people telling me I do have a Canadian accent. So maybe I just don't have a heavy Canadian accent. Oh, hey there, buddy. What's that about? But I definitely have a little bit of a Canadian accent. And then finally, it's letter time. Nostalgia said, "Hey, Adam, I always look forward to listening to your content on video games, but in between your podcasts, I've been looking for maybe another retro video game podcast to fill in the time while I drive because I work on the road." You're cheating on me, motherfucker. "I used to listen to The Gaming Historian and others like that, but they've all stopped doing content. Do you have any suggestions?" I get asked this a lot, and I don't listen to video game podcasts anymore because I do 5 a week. I just don't have the time, really. Like when I'm going to listen to a podcast, I listen to crime or sports or wrestling. I don't really listen to video game ones. The reason I read this on the episode 300, Blowing in the Cartridge, is if you are a Patreon, I highly, highly recommend checking out our Discord. And there's a channel in there called Promote Yourself. And there are a lot of people, and I'm not going to name because I'll forget people and then they'll feel offended, but there are a ton of people in our community that have started video game podcasts. And some of them are like really doing very, very well. So I would recommend going in there and just asking, "Hey, does anyone in here have a retro gaming podcast?" And then it'll be like that meme where all the hot dogs get thrown on her face. Literally, they'll be all over you, but I guarantee you they'll introduce you to some new podcasts. That would be my pick. Trying to think. I used to listen to Retronauts, but Bob Mackey's a fucking smarmy cunt and I hate him. And then I used to listen to the CU podcast, but Ian was just so negative I couldn't do it anymore. So I would recommend, just going into the Discord and asking who has a podcast and then close your eyes and enjoy. Thank you so much for all the submissions, everybody. As always, we need to keep the ball rolling. Let's switch things up and get to our Smash Hit segment, the official game show of Remember the Game Industries. Play one, remake one, erase one. And a huge thank you to Class and Concentration from the NES for unknowingly providing us with the theme music for the show. The rules are simple. You know it. Each week, I give our Patreons 3 retro video games. They can play one as it was released, they can remake one as a modern game, and the third is erased from time forever. And as always, there are no wrong answers, but there is a right one. We'll get there in a second. This week, we're talking about what I consider to be the best PS3 game of all time in The Last of Us. So I went with 3 of the highest rated PS3 games on Metacritic. The Last of Us was number 1, by the way. But we have Killzone 2, Metal Gear Solid 4, and Infamous 2. And this one was actually really close, but 25% say they'd play Killzone 2, remake Infamous 2, and erase Metal Gear Solid 4. That was the leader. So let's see what a few of you had to say here, and then I'll tell you what the right answer was. Klaus Minion said, "I'll play Metal Gear Solid 4 because it's the pinnacle of the series in my books, even if it plays more like a movie than a game. I'll remake Infamous 2 because it would work well for more modern hardware and help them redeem themselves for Second Son. And I'll erase Killzone 2 because I got it for my PS3 when it launched and I beat it and never had the urge to go back again. It's a one and done in my book." That's sound logic. I liked Second Son. You didn't like Second Son? I didn't. Wow. All right. I mean, Double Secret Probation, of course, but I liked Second Son. I thought it was good. Wild Wooly said, "I'll play Infamous 2 because I've only played the PS4 one and I loved it." See, it's Second Son. "I'll remake Metal Gear Solid 4 and just put it on modern consoles with a higher frame rate and better graphics. And I'll erase Killzone because they lied so hard about its graphics when they were showing the game off at E3. I love that logic. That it's like, because how old is Killzone at this point? And you're like, I haven't forgotten, you sons of bitches. That's not what the trees look like at E3, you bastards. And I've been waiting for this moment. I love that. I love anyone that holds a grudge is okay by me. Gregory Long said, "I'll play Metal Gear Solid 4 because I've played very little Metal Gear as a whole, and I still want to experience them as they are, warts and all. I'll remake Killzone 2 because I'd love to see Sony bring back some of their old franchises, such as Killzone and Resistance, and I'll erase Infamous 2 because I'd like to think Infamous Second Son survives that timeline, and I enjoyed that game a lot more." Yeah, of course you did, because Infamous Second Son is fucking awesome. Wow. Still can't get over the Infamous Second Son hate. That's sound logic. I didn't realize Metal Gear Solid 4 wasn't playable anywhere but on the PS3. That's fucking wild. And if it is, don't worry about it. I'm not going to play it. I don't care. But it seems basically locked on the PS3. Captain T75 said, "I'm going to play Killzone 2 because I never have, so why not? I disliked Infamous 2, so I'll erase that one. I don't think the world will miss it much. I absolutely hated Metal Gear 4, but the franchise has had good moments, so I'll remake that one and change almost everything. I mean, it'll still star Snake, but the studio behind it, the story, the gameplay, all the rest gets changed. The bar is low, so they can't really fail." You don't often get people writing in saying they're just going to rebuild the game from the ground up. I like that thought process. Sour Goatface said, "Happy 300th, Adam. Longtime Patreoner, first-time commenter. That's not true. Is it? I don't think that's true. I would play Metal Gear Solid 4. I'll just make sure to clear my schedule for those cutscenes. I would remake Killzone 2 because Sony could use a big multiplayer first-person shooter franchise now more than ever, and I'll erase Infamous 2. Even though it's the best in the franchise, I don't want to risk double secret probation on my first comment, so I guess I'll follow the rules. Well, I'm putting you on double secret probation pending investigation because I feel like you've commented before. But irregardless, I can live with your logic, so... fine. And you definitely have to clear some schedule to fucking... Apparently Metal Gear Solid 4's cutscene, there's one that's like an hour long or something. I don't know. It's fucking weird. And AB Killin said, I'm giving my 12-year-old black belt Abe the keys to the car on this one. Infamous 2 is very clean looking and nice, so I'd love to play it. I love Metal Gear, so remaking Metal Gear Solid 4 would be astounding to play with today's graphics, and I wouldn't miss Killzone 2 because I've never played it, and I don't plan on it. That's fucking sound logic. I'm going with the majority this week. 25% of you, as did S2S, who said, I'll play Killzone 2 because I never have. I'll remake Infamous 2 because, well, I've also never played it. I quite liked what little I did play of the first one, and I'd like to see a modern version of what I thought was a pretty cool idea for a game. And I will gladly erase Metal Gear Solid 4 because, like you, Adam, I think, I also hated Metal Gear Solid 2. It completely soured me on the rest of the series. Metal Gear 1 was awesome and deserved a better sequel than that hot, steamy turd. Fight me. I mean, I don't necessarily agree with your logic or your order, or I agree with your order, but I have different reasoning. Sign. I mean, same reason for Killzone 2. I am also going to play Killzone 2 because I never have. I hear it's great, so I'd like to try it. I'm going to remake Infamous 2 because I have played 1, 2, and Second Son. Really liked all of them, and I just want to see Infamous back in some form. So I'm going to remake it. I'm going to erase Metal Gear Solid 4, and y'all fucking know why. So thank you, everyone that wrote in as always. What have I been playing over the last week? Not a lot because I've been working a ton. But when I've had time, I replayed The Last of Us to get ready for this episode. I've been playing Prince of Persia, The Lost Crown, or whatever the new one is called. I haven't had a ton of time to spend with it, but it's really good. And then I guess I'll open the bag and let you know what Remember the Game 301 is probably going to be next week. Little Nemo the Dream Master for the NES, and I've been playing it, and it's awesome. And for all of you asking, when are you going to start Donkey Kong 64? I'll probably start it after I get back from BC this weekend. I'm looking at it right now in my console. It's time. All right, we're going to pause here. We're going to let a sponsor come in and peddle their wares, and when I get back, we're going full-blown Last of Us. All right, we will be right back after this. We've had some great partners over the years here at Remember the Game, but I don't know if any of them have hit home for me quite like Hometown Hero does. No pun intended. Don't start. It's a transparent, honest cannabis company that helps people and gives back to those that have served their country at the same time. I mean, come on. As soon as I read about these guys, I knew I wanted to work with them. Hometown Hero is a cannabis company out of Austin, Texas, and they were founded back in 2015 by a U.S. veteran. They have two goals: create premium hemp products that can help everyone, and to support veterans by donating a portion of those profits to organizations set up to take care of those who have served. Hometown Hero products are of the highest quality, and everything they offer is made right there in the U.S. of A. Gummies, caramels, chocolates, drink mix. There's something for everyone. And what's more, their hemp is grown locally in Texas, which is something they should and do take a lot of pride in. And they offer certificates of analysis for everything they sell because they want to be clear that their products are as advertised, both in terms of potency and ingredients. No contaminants, you get what you pay for. Just how they conduct business is enough to get my good eyes' attention. But when you circle back to the fact that the company was founded by a veteran and they put such heavy emphasis on supporting veterans, this isn't just lip service. I'm not reading a script I was given here. I'm proud to have Hometown Hero associated with Remember the Game. Reclaim your evening. Visit hometownhero.com and use code RTG to take 20% off your first purchase. That's hometownhero.com, code RTG for 20% off your first purchase. This is an ad by BetterHelp. A band once said, "Work sucks, I know." And I think most people agree with them. Workplace stress is now one of the top causes of declining mental health, with 61% of the global workforce experiencing higher than normal levels of stress from their jobs. And while walking away from your job might not be an option, taking a little time every day to focus on yourself and your mental health can make a huge difference. I know in the summer I try to get outside every day, get a little bit of sun, and just enjoy the outdoors. It really helps. At least until my allergies attack, and then it's ugly. It's important to take steps to combat work stress, and therapy can be a huge one. It's not just for overcoming trauma. Therapy can help you define work goals, set some work boundaries, develop coping skills, It's like a cheat code for life. And if you're thinking, man, I'm too busy for therapy, well, look into BetterHelp. They make therapy as convenient as possible. You can meet with one of their over 30,000 therapists online and on your schedule, just like over 5 million people around the world already have done. As the largest online therapy provider in the world, BetterHelp can provide access to mental health professionals with a diverse variety of expertise. Unwind from work with BetterHelp. Our listeners get 10% off their first month at betterhelp.com/rememberthegame. That's BetterHelp, HELP.com/rememberthegame. All right, let's get into The Last of Us. We had a lot of comments this week. I appreciate everybody that wrote in. You're all used to hearing me say it by now. I couldn't read everybody, but I did get as many as I can. Let's dive into these. Luke's father said one of the best that remade games out there other than Skyrim. That made me chuckle because you are right. They have certainly, the 4 Last of Us cow has been milked so dry. That thing is a desert now. It's sad. Cody Richards, but I'll keep eyeing him because I'm part of the problem. Cody Richardson said, I had to pop out of the shadows to comment on The Last of Us at 300 episodes. This game was one of those once-in-a-lifetime experiences for me where everything came together at just the right time for it to hit home and leave a lasting impression. 2013 was tough for me, and having this epic journey of tragedy, triumph, self-discovery, and so much more, all wrapped up in a post-apocalyptic zombie survival game, it all helped with finding escape for a few hours a day and working through so many emotions. I'll forever credit this game with helping me get through a dark time in my life, so it'll always have a spot in my heart. Happy that you're finally covering this one on the pod. Congrats on 300 episodes, Adam. Can't wait to see what the future holds for Remember the Game. Thank you, Cody. I'm glad you're doing well. It is kind of odd that The Last of Us, which is one of the most depressing games ever, got you through a tough time, but I get it. I understand. I get it. Good A wrote in and said, I was hooked right from the prologue. The emotional roller coaster this game takes you through is unmatched by any other title. This game is so well written, even the collectible notes found throughout the levels tell you the story of past survivors that mirror the theme of the game. This is without a doubt my favorite gaming franchise and a masterpiece from beginning to end. I agree with literally every word of that. Well done, Good A. Patty O'Brien said, it's simply the greatest. I'll always remember this game, and I can't think of any form of media that has ever impacted me so profoundly. I assume your message cut off before you said except for video game podcasts, but I get it. Normal Normie said, in 2018, after a console hiatus of 5 years, I picked this game up with a slew of used discs and borrowed a friend's console with the intention of catching up on a short list of must-plays I'd missed, like Dark Souls, the Arkham games, Uncharted, etc. I would say I played all of them except The Last of Us because rather than a game to be played, I felt it was an experience to be lived. Life, having recently taken me down a path that afforded me very little time to spend with my own daughter, had this narrative hitting me in the feels like a Mack truck from the jump. It was effortless to imagine myself going through the same transformation Joel did were I in his shoes. It wouldn't be an exaggeration to say his story captured my attention like no other video game story has. The way he was reluctant to form a bond with Ellie, to the way they rely on each other to traverse half the country and back until that bond is finally tested in the end. I've debated at length with people who think Joel made the wrong decision at the end of part 1. I'm not saying Joel was a good man, but considering the alternative outcome, I still can't bring myself to believe that any good man put in his same predicament wouldn't have done exactly the same thing. I love the way that wraps up because I truly think the ending of this game is really that cherry on the sundae that puts it over the top. Again, we are about to spoil fucking everything, all right? So if you don't want to know how this ends, get out of here, go play it, then come back and embrace the greatness that is The Last of Us with the rest of us. But for all the rest of you, I am going to queue up some very, very, I don't know if it's going to be depressing or not. Some of the music is, some of it is, whatever. I'm going to queue up some Last of Us music. And when it stops, Mark McCue and I are talking The Last of Us, which originally released on the PS3 in North America on June 14th, 2013. Enjoy the episode, everybody. Let's go. All right, joining me via the blank phone this week for episode 300. We haven't recorded the infamous intro yet, but I presume that I've sucked my dick in the intro and talked about how we've done 300 episodes. But joining me for episode 300 this week is a man that needs no introduction, but I'm going to give him one, and that is pending. Remember the Game Hall of Famer and Purple Monkey Dishwasher All-Star, Bartholomew McCue. Mark, it's weird. I always find it weird now when I talk to
300.
you. Yeah.
300. Now, like, not to suck my own dick here, but I was on episode 2. Like,
Yeah.
that's how long we've been talking video games on this show here.
It's a long time. I can't, man, fucking, it's wild. 300 of these stupid things. I have to say, it's weird. I find it odd now talking to you on this show because I'm so used to talking to you on Purple Monkey Dishwasher, available at patreon.com/remember the game, that I find it odd to just talk video games with you. Does that make sense? Is it?
Yeah,
I don't know,
no,
is it just me?
because it's a dynamic. Like, for a while, I was just doing Purple Monkey Dishwasher.
Yeah. We were. I didn't want to wear you out.
And here's the thing: you never have to worry. Never have to worry. I'm always happy to talk video games.
Aw, well, especially when the games are as good as this one.
I mean, I would I'll be honest. I would have been mad if I didn't get to review this game.
So it's funny you say that because at least one of my other regular guests is mad that he's not on this episode reviewing this game.
Well, I mean, like, I'm sorry, whoever that is.
Yeah, this was in Mark's contract. It was part of the Purple Monkey Dishwasher
Yeah.
negotiations. He got episode 300. So, I gotta say, buddy, I've always tried to cover milestone games on the every 50. Like, I think episode 50 was what did we do? Super Mario 64, I think, and then we did Halo 2 for episode 100. We did Super Mario Brothers for 150. We did Final Fantasy Tactics for 200. We did Gears of War for 250. I like to cover big, monumental, not always like earth-shattering games, but games that mean a lot to me and games that are just bona fide classics. And everyone that listens,
all of that.
This is all of that. Anyone that listens to the show with any regularity knows this, but like this is, after Super Mario World and Tetris, quite possibly my favorite video game of all time. It is, and that's not an exaggeration. I think this, and I know some of you are going to write in and say you don't like The Last of Us. That's fine. I know not everybody likes it. To me, this game is perfect. It is brilliant. It is the best story-based video game I've ever played in my life.
Story I've ever seen in a video game.
Right?
It didn't surprise me at all that they decided to make it into a show, and they kind of made it into a verbatim show. But we'll get into that a little bit later for sure.
Totally. Now, I'll have probably said it during the intro, but we're spoiling. We're gonna talk about the ending of the game and everything. Sorry, everybody. The game is 11 years old. I know some are gonna write in and say it's not retro too.
It's retro. Right. Anything that came out on a console that's not currently having games made for it is retro.
That's a hot take. I only say that because I take no matter what definition I come up with for retro, some people are like, that's not retro.
Oh yeah, but this is 11. This game is 11, like you mentioned, 11 year old. If you're 18 years old, this game came out when you were 7. So
if this game came out in the year 2000, or like if we were in the year 2000, this game came out in 1989.
Yeah,
it's old. I think part of the reason people say it's not old enough is, and it's a fair argument.
No, it is old enough. It's just that you're older than you thought you were.
Well, that's true. I feel that, dude. The number of people that
feel that all the time. Like, I remember when we reviewed Skyrim on this show, I was like, really? Okay, no, yeah. Many years, many moons have passed.
Oh, buddy. The number of people that came by my GameCon booth this past weekend and pointed at my NES and just said, man, that's old. And I was like, that's mine from when I was a kid. So you're fucking calling me old, you piece of shit. I am old. But I think part of the reason some people question how old The Last of Us is, and I think it's a fair criticism, is that Naughty Dog has if Naughty Dog can wring another dime out of this fucking game, they're going to do it.
They're going to do like The Last of Us Part 1, Part 2.
Yeah. They're like, here's The Last of Us on PS3. Here's The Last of Us on PS4. Here's The Last of Us on PS5. And I guarantee you, we're going to get The Last of Us Part 1.1 on the PS6 someday. And you know what? Adam, part of the problem blank, I'm going to buy it. because that's what I do. I just keep buying The Last of Us because
Okay,
I
I
love this
did
game.
buy the first. I bought it for PS4, like the PS4 version on my PS5. But I'm proud of myself. I resisted getting the part 1 remake.
Right. Oh, I'm such a fucking simp for The Last of Us. But the thing about it is like I just replayed it to get ready for this episode, which is probably about my 5th time playing it, and I just it hasn't gotten old. Like it's not open world. There's no decisions to make that change how it ends or anything like that. But that's why I love linear games, and I just playing through this game is like rewatching a movie that I love. I've
There's
n-
something to be said about extremely linear games.
yeah.
I love me a good open world. I love me Skyrim. I love me some Spider-Man. I love me some Zelda, but they're different types of games. They're different experiences. Whereas like I'll when I'm playing a Zelda or a Mario or whatever, I'll put on a podcast and Linnea and I will listen to a podcast and both kind of zone out. But this, like, for a game like The Last of Us, you need to be experiencing the whole game. You can't be doing it while doing something else. You need to be focused on the game.
Yeah. Yeah, dude. It's wild to me, man. Like I've played other games that are story based and really enjoyed some of them. But this was one of those like dude, this is from Naughty Dog, and I like they make the Uncharted games, and I love have you played the Uncharted's?
I played Uncharted 4,
Okay.
and here's the thing I noticed about Uncharted 4. Um I really liked it. There were a lot of times when I recognized set pieces from The Last of Us.
Right.
And I'm
Yeah,
like,
yeah.
"Oh, they're reusing a lot of assets."
Sure, sure. I mean, like I've always I like the Uncharted games. I like the setting and the characters of The Last of Us better. Like I think Nathan Drake, well, cool, and Uncharted's great games, and Nathan Drake's a cool character. He is just like a modern Indiana Jones,
Yeah,
whereas
it's they're
Ellie and
cool,
Joel
fun
are
games.
yeah, Ellie and Joel are original characters, and I just literally every time I fire up a new video game, I hope that when I'm done, I put down the controller and I'm like, that was one of the most incredible experiences of my life. And it's very rare
It's very
that a
rare.
game hits that hard. And this one, I remember playing this for the first time. I played it on the PS3 when it came out because I saw the reviews giving it 10s out of 10s. And I was like, man, I got to see what this is all about. And I put the controller down and I was like, that genuinely I always remove Tetris when I'm talking about my favorite games of all time. If you take Tetris out of the occasion or out of the equation, excuse me, this is the best story, best video game I've ever experienced outside of Super Mario World. And I'm not saying the storyline of Super Mario World is great, but there's literally I have one semi maybe portion of The Last of Us I don't enjoy, and everything else about it is perfect
Okay, well,
in my voice.
while we're talking that, I do have a nitpick for The Last. There's one thing that I really don't like about The Last of Us.
Yeah,
We're
let's
going to
get
be
the bad
spending
out of
the
the way
next
now.
hour or so sucking this game's dick so hard that I've just got to get this out of the way real
Yeah, of
quick.
course. Do
This
it.
game was built from the story up, if that makes sense. So there are big portions of this game where it forgets that it's supposed to be a game. Like, there's like this fantastic story, and you have all of these really cool, fun action set pieces where you're killing zombies and you're doing like stealth missions. There's a part where like you get trapped and you're having to shoot zombies while you're upside down in this trap, or
I
you're
love
in
that
like
part.
you're in that bird's nest and you've got the snipe and you've got to protect Ellie. Like those parts are great, but then there are parts where it's like kind of slower, kind of a bit more quiet in between the big action set pieces and in between the story, where the game doesn't really seem to know what to do with you. They're kind of like, I guess Ellie gets onto this door that's floating and you gotta push her to the other side, maybe. I don't know, man. Like a lot of these a lot of the element puzzles don't really work for me in this game.
So that's fascinating. I never found that I felt sorry guys, I'm losing my voice from GameCon this past weekend. I never felt that the game's pacing ever really lost me. Like I enjoyed the times when you could let your hair down and not worry about anything trying to kill you and just work on a stupid puzzle, because I was like, oh, it's just nice to not have to crawl around and worry that a clicker's about to come out and eat me. Like, and I like the conversations between Joel and Ellie in those segments, especially when Ellie's asking about what life was like before this plague, and everyone playing the game, at least prior to fucking COVID, everyone playing the game was like, even if you were 15 playing the game, you're like, man, I knew what life was like before the pandemic. Let me tell you what it was like. And I enjoyed that part. I will concede that the puzzles where Ellie doesn't swim and she has to ride on like a pallet or something across water, they did kind of just feel unnecessary. That's not the one portion of the game I hate, because I don't really think it's that big of a deal. But I will agree that those portions where you have to like go and find there's always happens to be a pallet somewhere, and you just have to go find it and swim it back to Ellie so she can ride across the water on it. I will agree that like after a while, those start to run their course. I'll concede that.
It does feel a little bit like they're padding the game.
Yeah, I'll concede that. But as far as the like, that's an interesting take. I'm not gonna, everyone experiences this game differently, but like just replaying it, I'll hear where you're coming from, but I never really found it got too slow. I just was like, okay, now I'm in a segment where I'm fighting these fucking creatures and I'm just trying not to die. And then it's like, okay, we're going to throw you a bone and you get 20 minutes where you're basically just exploring and looking for supplies. And Joel and Ellie are building on these two characters and talking, like Ellie's asking about what life was like before, and Joel is telling her like, yeah, that's what it was like. I always like, I enjoy that part.
And it is a nitpick for sure, because
Sure,
it was
yeah.
never enough to like take me out of the game, and because I always wanted to see what was going to happen next.
Sure.
I always had, like, especially the first time I played it, I had to get to the next story moment, and
Right.
that's what drove me through the game. But there were parts that were a bit of a slog to get through.
I'll hear that. And that's my one, for lack of my gripe with this game, the portion where, and again, we're spoiling everything. The part where after Joel gets hurt and he's living in that basement and it goes to like winter and you have to go and hunt the deer with Ellie. I hate hunting that deer.
Oh, really?
Yes.
Okay, we're having opposite takes here, because I actually really did like that.
Oh,
Because I thought it
fuck.
created a really good atmosphere. It was a really interesting gameplay element where suddenly you have to, like, you shoot the deer with the crossbow, and now you have to track it, and you have to follow this like pool, like this
The
trail
blood.
of blood. Yeah.
Yeah.
And then
No,
it leads to a really interesting story moment.
Oh, the story that follows it is great, and I love that you get this point where you get to play, because up until then you don't get to play as Ellie, and so it's like, holy fuck, I actually get to play as, because like I know we're jumping all over the map here, but like, can we agree that Ellie's the shit? Ellie's the coolest. I love that kid so much. Ellie's the best.
I think Ellie is a great character, and especially when it gets to part 2, like those two games, they're really her story.
Absolutely.
More than
And
their Joel's.
just for the record, anybody, we will not spoil anything from The Last of Us Part 2. I promise. Like, it's, you do. There's a lot more Ellie in Part 2, which you'd know from the trailer of the game, but we won't ruin Part 2. But I agree. Ellie is the heart of The Last of Us. And I absolutely fell in love with that kid playing the game. And I was so excited that I got to play as her. And I agree with you that like it's tense because it's so quiet and it's just her and she's trying to catch this deer so she can eat and feed Joel, and all that is great. But I don't know what it is about. And I love the part that follows with David and what a creep that motherfucker is. But I just hate that. I hate that 5 minutes where you're hunting the deer is the one part of the game that I'm like, like I love Super Mario World, but every time I get to Choco Island, I'm like, I fucking hate, or whatever it's called. I'm like, I hate this fucking part. That's the hunting deer. It's like the one part of the game that I'm like, the next 5 minutes is not enjoyable.
You hate Choco Island? What is wrong with you?
No, it sucks. That fucking level where it's like the timer and everything. I don't particularly like the Mysterious Forest either, but the Choco Island
Mysterious
sucks.
Forest I will give you, but Choco Island is fun.
I hate that fucking part. But that's all I'm saying is like, it's still one of my favorite games of all time, but it just has that one little portion that I'm like, I don't particularly enjoy this part.
And it doesn't matter how good the game is. Every game is going to have that one little thing.
It has to. Yeah. Yeah.
Except Tetris,
But
because Tetris is pure.
I will say though, when I'm playing Tetris and all I'm getting is just cube after cube after cube, and I'm like, you're the most useless block in this fucking game. Get the
That's
fuck
the
anybody
game,
else.
though. That's the
What?
game.
I know
That's
it
the
is, but
game.
fuck that cube. I hate that fucking cube. I'm trying to think if there's anything else about The Last of Us that I don't like, but I really don't think there is. Like, I'll get this out of the way right now. I guess we should have explained the story of the game, but I'm assuming everyone listening knows the story, or at least most of you do. And if you don't, we'll get there in a second.
We'll spoil it all over the place.
Yeah, we'll spoil it everywhere. I never played the multiplayer that came with it. Did you?
No, like I'm not a big multiplayer game
Same.
guy as it is. I
Yeah,
mean, I
same
love
here.
like every now and then I'll fire up Splatoon or like I'll play Mario Kart with my brother or Smash Brothers but I'm not much for going online and playing online like multiplayers with strangers.
No, same here. That said, I have heard people say nice things about the multiplayer, but and again, anyone that's been listening to the show with any regularity should have expected this. I just don't have anything to add to the multiplayer conversation because I don't have any friends. And frankly, I just really enjoy the single player of this game. So,
Yeah. And
all
that's
right.
kind of like it felt very tacked on and very kind of, oh well, I guess we've got to have a multiplayer.
Yeah, it did come out during that era where it felt like every game needed to have a multiplayer shoehorned in somehow. And I'm not even saying it's bad. I've never touched it, so I don't know.
And I'm
But
okay with the multiplayer being shoehorned in versus like a lot of games now are multiplayer games that they kind of have to shoehorn a story into.
yeah.
Those aren't games I fuck with.
Yeah, you're not kidding. So, all right. Well then, how about this? Let's just are you done with the negative? I'm done with my negatives.
Yeah, that's really all. That's
Okay.
my only real nitpick.
All right, then let's get the commercial out of the way right now, and then when we come back, we'll spend a good 40 plus minutes just blowing smoke up Joel's ass.
Let's do it.
Yeah, okay. So we'll take a break and we'll be right back, and then it's all good stuff. Okay, so we probably should have explained this 20 minutes ago, but like, if by some chance you've never played The Last of Us, I mean, stop this podcast and go play The Last of Us. But it's basically
or you could watch the show as well. I mean,
Yeah.
obviously the game's
do
gonna be
both.
better. Show's also fantastic.
Yeah, do both, frankly. But basically this game is set in like a post-apocalyptic world where a fungus has basically killed mankind and most humans have become infected, basically zombies. They're not ever called zombies, they're the infected. But they're running around trying to eat
We all
people.
knew they were zombies. It's like when The Walking Dead calls them what do they call them, walkers in that?
Walkers, I think. Yeah.
Yeah,
I think
and it's
so.
like, oh, okay, but like we know what those are. And that
Yeah,
was actually, if I'm honest, like when this game first came out, that's kind of what kept me away from it. Was like, ah, man, because there was that period where just every other week there was a new zombie thing out.
totally.
So when The Last of Us came out, it was kind of like at the peak of that, and I'm like, all right, another zombie game, fucking great, sure,
Yeah.
totally gonna play that.
I can get on board with that because you're right. Zombies had become it's what the multiverse is now. Like the multiverse is becoming the new kind of overplayed thing, and zombies was that, and that's when this game came out. But it's set in that world, and you play as a guy named Joel, who, again, we're spoiling everything. At the very beginning of the game, actually, the infection hasn't started yet, or it's just starting. And Joel loses his, I guess she's probably about Ellie's age, like 13 or 14, his daughter. And then it cuts to the future, and everyone's living in this world now, and the government's ruling with an iron fist, and there's rebellion groups stepping up, the Fireflies most predominantly. And Joel has been tasked with the job of smuggling this girl, Ellie, this 13, I think she's 14, this 14-year-old girl, Ellie, to the Fireflies headquarters, basically across the US, because they realize she is for some reason immune to the virus that everybody else is dying from. And so you're trying to get her across the country to this headquarters where they can presumably use her to come up with a vaccine or a cure to this virus that is killing the world. And you spend the entire game just trying to not get eaten by the infected, but also not get killed by just other non-infected humans you're dealing with, because the world has fallen into complete and utter chaos.
And that's what's kind of interesting about this game is that other people are more of a threat in this game than the actual zombies.
Yeah, which is one of the things I love about this game, because like, look, it's great when you're fighting clickers and shit like that and everything is tense, but you're right. It feels like, I don't know, 40%, 50% of the combat you're fighting against the zombies, the infected, that have no game plan. You just have to creep around and kill them without being spotted or seen. But if they see you or spot you, they're going to kill you much faster than humans are. Whereas when you're fighting against humans, there's a little bit more strategy involved. But if they do see you, it takes a lot longer for them to kill you, and you've got a lot more leeway with taking them out. And I agree with you, man. I actually prefer the combat when I'm fighting. One of my favorite parts of the game is when Joel and Ellie crash that truck in the city, because that guy is trying to stop them, and they're like, and Joel's like, he's not sick, put your seatbelt on. And then he starts shooting at them, and then you have to fight your way out of that city, and you're just fighting against these guys that have basically taken over this city from the government, and they rule it with an iron fist.
What's so cool about that scene is not only is it incredibly fun, but it leads into a really interesting character moment where Ellie just goes, why, like, she asks Joel, like, how do you know that he wasn't sick? And he kind of is like, yeah, I did that too. Like, and you kind of get a little bit of Joel's backstory and like kind of understand that he's had to do some really terrible things to survive.
Yeah.
And it's really cool. Like, other than the few nitpicks I know I mentioned off the top, it's really cool how like a lot of the gameplay will feed into the story and vice versa.
Yeah, and speaking of the Joel character in particular, because the two main characters are Joel and Ellie, and I adore Ellie, but Ellie doesn't have a lot of uh like, she doesn't have much of an arc. Like, the last, again, we're not going to ruin The Last of Us Part 2, but The Last of Us Part 2 is Ellie's game, and she grows a lot as a person and stuff like that. In this one, she's just a kid, and she's never been outside of like the quarantine zone. And so she's in awe of seeing this world and seeing how shitty people are and all that kind of stuff. Whereas you're right, Joel came from the society that we're all in right now. Joel was like a construction guy with a kid and a house and was living a normal life. And in the 20 years or whatever since that happened, and now, and when the game takes place, this man has changed, and he has killed countless people. And like you said, he's done some horrible things. And you start to learn that like you can't just be a good person in this post infection world, because the society as a whole is not good, and everyone is out to kill you, and everyone is out to take things from you. And I love the way you see Joel go from the Mr. Wilson to Dennis the Menace, where he has no interest in getting to know Ellie at all. You know, he's like, fuck off, shut up, follow me, don't touch anything, be quiet. And then by the end of the game, he looks at her like a daughter, like he's fallen in love with her. And you get to learn that this guy has lived in this shitty world for so long. It's almost like he had forgotten what it was like to care about somebody. Outside of Tess, he had
exactly it, and that's exactly it. And it's amazing how this story, like, I would have never thought that you'd see this level of character and nuance and feeling in a zombie game.
Yeah, because they really could have taken their foot off the gas and just leaned on zombies. And because, like, let's be honest, I love the Uncharted games, but the story aren't anything. The stories aren't special in those games. No. You know, like it's and in this one they could have just done Uncharted.
I couldn't tell you what happened in Uncharted Part 4. I remember I shot a lot of things. There was a lot of fun things that happened. Couldn't tell you what the story was.
Right. And they could have done that with this game and not worried about telling a great story, and just had this guy and this girl walking through these cities, fighting people and fighting demons or infected or whatever the fuck. But that you get to see Joel, like, because again, going back to the very beginning of the game, that first part of the game, like before the Last of Us splash screen comes up, where you actually control Sarah at first, Joel's daughter, and she's living with Joel, and that's when the world falls into chaos, and then Joel and his brother Tommy take Sarah and try to get out of the city and end up crashing their truck, and then a member of the military, the art or whatever the fuck, ends up shooting at them because the government's just trying to control society and not let this thing get too far off the rails. And Joel survives because Tommy helps him, but Sarah dies, and that's in the first 10 minutes of the game.
I think it's this first 10 minutes is so brilliant
It
because
is.
it breaks your heart. And the way they do it is you start the game by playing Sarah. So when Sarah dies, you go, what the fuck? That was me. I was
Yeah.
playing as Sarah.
Yeah, agreed. Like, so you get, because I think Sarah is used as a way to explain how Joel becomes so attached to Ellie. You know,
Yes,
he's not just like this
100%.
bitter old man who's like, fuck off, kid, leave me alone. You can, at one point, Ellie brings up Sarah, and Joel's like, don't go there. And at one point, Joel says something like, "You're not my kid, and I'm sure as fuck not your dad."
Dude, that is one of the like that might be my favorite part of this game is when Ellie just says to him like, I'm not her, I'm not your daughter. And
Yeah,
she's just like, we need to go our different ways because
yeah,
you're not my daughter, and I'm
yeah,
sure as hell not your dad.
yeah.
And
Joel basically
the,
tells her to fuck off.
I felt bad because that scene was verbatim in the TV show. And so I was watching it with my girlfriend, and I just started doing the scene along with the scene.
Yeah, yeah. But no, you're right. It's one of the heaviest moments in the game. And then Ellie explains to him that like literally everyone that I've ever been with has left me or died. And now you're trying to do it because
And that's the
Joel,
reality of this new world. It's just
yeah,
anybody you get attached to will die.
yeah. But I think going back to the Sarah thing, I think that's what makes that so critical is if the game just picked up, like if the game just showed you, hey, here's what happened. They skip Sarah. There's just here's what happened. And now we're in the post-apocalyptic world or whatever the fuck. And Joel is a bitter, cranky old man. And then he has to escort this young girl across the country, and she's just annoying him. I don't think him getting so attached to her would make sense. But the fact that you've seen that like he was a good dad, clearly loved his kid, and you see that he's capable of that, I think makes the connection between him and Ellie in the second half of the game hit so much harder because intentionally, whether he's just I don't get the impression that he's just using Ellie as like a fill-in for his daughter Sarah. Sorry, everybody, the recording program crashed on us there.
I've
But
never seen that
basically,
happen.
yeah, that was odd. But basically, we were just saying that, like, I think the Sarah thing is really clever because I think it sets the tone for the game. It explains why the world is in the state of chaos that it's in, and it opens the door to Joel having a soft side instead of it feeling forced. Do you know what I mean? Like, if they never done the Sarah thing, I don't know if I'd buy that Joel is suddenly likes this kid. But
I think that and I think it kind of explains how Joel lost his humanity and then got it back because this
yeah,
is a world where everyone like these are human these are human characters, but they've lost that spark of humanity, and it's so interesting finding it. Like
yeah.
this
And
game is about finding that in just the darkest of places.
And I like that Sarah wasn't killed by getting bit by an infected, but it was just a guy, like a guard, like a military guy or whatever the fuck, like shot her. And I feel like that really showed Joel like that's what the world is now. Like we're not our civilization as you know it is gone. Like it's every person for themselves now.
Oh
And
man, I never even thought of that.
I presume that prior to the events of where Sarah died, Joel wasn't going around killing people, but he
No,
seems,
he did,
you know,
like you said, he seemed like he was probably a construction guy or something.
yeah. But now he just seems like killing people is not even a big deal to him, and I think that military guy shooting his daughter showed him like, hey, it's eat or be eaten now. Like the gloves are off. Which again makes you, because that's one of the criticisms of the Uncharted games is that Nathan Drake seems like a nice, normal guy who has shot and killed hundreds of people. And it's like, does that not bother you? Whereas in this world, it's like, no, Joel, it makes sense. I'd be killing people too. Fuck that.
Yeah, there's
So
not there's no like disconnect between the story and the gameplay like there is kind of in the Uncharted, because you're right. Yeah, Nathan Drake, yeah, this charming, funny guy who seems really nice, but has also killed like a lot of people. There's a disconnect there
yeah.
between like the character and the gameplay, because you can't not have like this guy shooting people, because that's what makes it a game.
Yeah. Yeah.
Whereas in
Exactly.
this game, yeah, it makes sense that Joel and Ellie are off shooting and killing people.
100%. Yeah, absolutely. So that's Joel, like in a nutshell. And then I guess we have to wrap up the character arc of Joel. He goes from like, I'm going to take this fucking job and help this kid because I'm going to get our guns back and get, because the Fireflies offer him exponentially more than just his guns back if they can get Ellie out. I would like to have seen more of how him and Tess met and their history, but we never got that. And that is what it
Yeah, and
is.
I don't know if we needed it. Would have been like if that was like, another DLC or something like that, just kind of a prequel, I'd have been okay with that. But I'm really okay like not knowing the specifics of their relationship, because it
Totally. It's
probably
not,
isn't much more interesting than like, oh, we both kind of had similar goals and that's why we partnered up.
yeah, I presume that it's more of just a convenience thing than anything. Um, the only other thing with Joel's storyline that I think really needs to be brought up. So he clearly goes from like, I can't stand this kid because I've spent 20 years. I think this world has just made him into a heartless, bitter old man. And now he's slowly realizing what it's like to be human again and love somebody because he's clearly fallen in love with Ellie. But then we get the end of the game. And again, we're spoiling everything. And at the very end of the game, when they realize like we can probably make a cure to this, but it's going to involve killing this kid, and Joel kills all of them, takes the kid and leaves. I remember the first time I played through this game and that ending hits, and then you have that final scene where Ellie asks him to look her in the eye and tell him that that's the truth. And he does it. And she just says, okay. And she doesn't really believe him.
She doesn't
But
believe him at all. And
yeah,
but just the way she just goes, okay. And then it
yeah,
cuts to black and it just hits you in such a way. And you're like, that's the game. That's the holy fuck. That's how they end that game.
yeah.
It's so just, it's just chills. It's just chills. And the thing
It's
about the
brilliant.
end of this game is it's so hard. You get like, I just find myself being so mad at Joel because that's not the choice I would have made. I don't think. I don't
That's not,
know. It's hard to like. No, you and I will probably never be in that situation where we have to make that choice.
of
But
course.
I don't know what choice I would have made. Like, do you
I
save humanity or do you save this person you've come to care about?
I mean, I think the play is you save humanity, but obviously, I think what's crazy about it is Ellie seems to have accepted the fact that she's going to have to die to save humanity, and she's like, all right, that's the
Yeah,
price I have to pay.
that's
So
the
like
choice she would have made too.
this kid is willing to sacrifice herself to save the world, but this grown man isn't willing to make that sacrifice again. And I think the second part of it that becomes so brilliant is you finish the game, the credits, Ellie says okay, and then the credits roll. That's it. And you put down the controller and you can't help but ask yourself, so like, is this whole game you think you've been playing as the Joel, the hero? And then Joel does this. And now you can't help but look at it and be like, so is Joel the villain?
It's
Because I feel
so
like he
he
kind of
might
is.
be. And that's what's so good about this game is because you like I remember ending the game and I'm like, I'm mad at Joel. I'm mad at this
Yeah.
person who doesn't exist because of this choice he's made. But
Yeah.
you also kind of understand the choice he made.
I get it, but it's like at the end of the day, you were clearly just he was selfish. And
because again, like that would not have been the choice that Ellie would have made.
no,
She would have agreed to it. She would have gone through with it. She would have died for the good of humanity. But he
yeah,
just couldn't let that happen. And
I
you
just think
think
it's
about
I
it, and
it
he's like, "This is this him trying to save his daughter?" Like he's just been reliving the death of his daughter so much that he sees it happening in front of him again, and he's like, "No, I can do something different this time."
that's exactly
Or
how I interpret it. That's exactly how I interpret it. Is that it's his chance to like, I'm not letting this happen again.
yeah,
And but the difference was like Sarah, well sad, was him losing his daughter. This is literally him with a chance to save our species, and he's not willing to do it. And I just think it makes him into a again, I'm not gonna touch part two, but I think it just makes Joel into a complete villain. And I think the way that Ellie looks at him, Ellie goes, "Okay." And then the game just ends. And you can't help but put the controller down and just be like, she knows he's full of shit. He knows he's full of shit. But they're both just accepting it and moving on.
and like he knows she knows.
Yeah. And I just think it's such a you're playing this game and it really is one of the best stories, if not the best story I've ever experienced in a video game. And the
I've
hardest
never seen a better story in a game.
No. And the hardest thing about a story like that is coming up with an ending that doesn't suck. And I'm curious what you think. I can't think of a better ending than that.
Would no like because the ending of this game leaves you with such this moral quandary that really, again, never seen in another game. And
No.
again, we won't get into the specifics of Last of Us Part 2. And I really do like that game, but it doesn't have that same weight at the end.
No, it doesn't. It doesn't hit like part. But you know what? You know what? Speaking of the ending of this game, another thing that I really love, and I just thought of this while you were talking, that I love about the ending of this game is that you're not given the choice.
No,
The
you're not
whole game
because
is
I like
linear.
because there's a point where you're the guns pointed at the doctor, and the last few times I'm just like, what if I don't do it? What if I can I just not do it? But the game makes you do it.
Yeah, and the whole game is linear. Like you don't get any there's not outside of like the only choices you make in this game are your strategies to dealing with situations. But there's nothing you can do to change any of the outcomes or anything like that. And I really really love the fact that they were like this is the ending and it's not we're not giving you the choice of like sacrifice Ellie or save Ellie and you get two different endings. It is literally just like no, you are going to save Ellie even though she doesn't really want you to and leave with her. And I I just think I know I'm gonna keep saying it because I adore this game, but like I just think it's a brilliant finish. It was just so perfectly well done.
Yeah.
I it stuck with me for a long time,
And like
that
I do
ending.
like games that have multiple endings, and I really respect that this game didn't do that.
Yeah.
That was like, no, we this is the story we're telling you.
Yeah.
Because if there I couldn't imagine a scenario where Joel let them kill Ellie to make the vaccine, and there being an ending as profound or as heavy or as meaningful as the ending that we got.
Yeah. Absolutely not. It's just
I
I
I
mean I
imagine that maybe early in development, they're like, "Okay, these are the 2 endings," and then they wrote both endings, and they're like, "Well, this is a much better ending," so they went,
sure.
"Okay, no, fuck that."
I mean, I think part of it too is you spend, 15 plus whatever amount of hours playing this game and realizing that the entire world has become take what you want or need by any means necessary.
That's the other thing I
And
really well, the one thing I also and just kind of touching on what you said a moment ago, the game is 15 hours, and I really, really appreciate a 15-hour game.
oh, buddy, me
Uh
too. Fuck.
I mean, especially
Fuck.
especially like as adults who have busy lives, full time jobs and all that.
Yeah.
But there's just some. The game could have been like 100 hours or whatever. Like, there's so many games now just feel like they need to be 100 hours just to make it worth the. And I'm just like, I just so appreciate that this game was like, no, 15 hours. We're telling you the story. We're pacing it perfectly. There's not a whole bunch of side quests you got to do. There's not a whole bunch of collectibles. It's
Yeah.
15 hours.
Well, I felt like they were just confident that they were like, we know this is good. We know this is a good story. And we know that ending is going to leave people like, okay, wow. Because I think I not to keep sticking, because I still want to get to Ellie and I still want to get to we haven't even mentioned like how the game plays, and there's so many other characters I want to talk about. But that ending, I think part of it too is like, I can't imagine too many people put their controller down and felt like they were ripped off because it was only 15 hours. I think you finish the game and you put the controller down, and then you spend a good few minutes thinking about that ending and what would I have done, and like, am I a bad guy? Like, would I have not done that? And I just think it was so perfect is the only word I can think of. I think it's the perfect ending to this game. And people leave and they're
we
happy.
talked about it in like some other games here. Shorter can be much better. Like, we talked about Portal. We've talked about Portal 2. Portal 1 is a better game than Portal 2, despite being like a third the length of the second one.
Sure. I know. Here come the emails because
Yeah.
yeah.
And don't get me wrong,
But
love Portal 2. Have a lot of great things to say about
totally.
Portal 2.
Yeah.
Portal 1 is a better game.
Yeah, if you haven't listened, go back and listen to those episodes. We love both those games. I don't really have much else to add about Joel, other than shout out to what's his nuts, Troy Baker that voiced him. Great job, fucking great job. But I don't have anything else to say about him. Are you good to touch on Ellie here?
Yeah, let's get into Ellie.
I don't think there's a ton to like. Ellie's so she's like a kid who's never lived in a world that's not like this, and she gets bit and she's immune. And she's clearly got something in her that could work as a potential cure to this thing. I think one of my favorite things about The Last of Us is experiencing this world with Ellie and seeing her see all these things that she's never seen before. Things that we all take for granted, like normal things.
Never explains why she's immune.
No, I don't think it does. I assume it's just, I mean, I can't remember if they do in the it doesn't matter.
I think in the show they have an explanation for it, but they don't in the game.
But it also doesn't particularly matter. Like, it has, I don't know, at the very end of the game, they say something about her brain not. So I don't know. It doesn't matter. Something to do with her brain.
What it was in the show, and like we can get into the show a little bit because it kind of follows the same beats, but like expands it a little bit. But like and here's the fun thing in the show: Ellie's mother was played by the woman who voices Ellie in the game,
which is pretty cool.
Which I think was a cool choice. Ellie's mother got bit while she was giving birth. And so because of that, there is something that passed through the umbilical cord that made Ellie immune. I don't know quite how it worked, but it was like, okay, you know what? Good enough explanation for me.
Yeah, I honestly never really, like, I just was like, all right, she's immune. Okay. Like, I have grass allergies. Other people can go there and fucking eat grass and doesn't, I'm like, all right. For whatever reason, the fungus doesn't bother her. But what I think what most people agree, like, Ellie doesn't have a lot of growth in this game. She gets out into the real world and sees how fucked up it is. But I think the cool thing about Ellie is just that, like, she's just, I mean, she's a badass. I don't know if there's another way to describe her. She's just a little badass. She's awesome. Like, she's like, there's a part where you run into Sam and Henry, and I can't remember which one the kid is. I think that's Sam.
I think it's Sam. Yeah.
Yeah. But
and
Sam's
the Sam and Henry part. Holy fuck. Like,
oh yeah.
Again, like, the story just does not stop fucking with you.
No, and I want to touch on them. We'll get to them, and I want to talk about Bill too. But we'll with Ellie, there's a part where Sam goes like, "How are you not scared of all this?" And she's like, "Who says I'm not?" But she never lets on. And I don't know if it's just her. I mean, I guess it is just her personality, and living in this fucked up world has just given her calluses toward it, I guess. I don't know. But I think that's one of the most, like, she's exponentially braver in this world than I would have been. And she's 14.
Yeah.
Like, she's awesome.
But she also grew up in this world.
Yeah. She was raised in the darkness.
Yes.
or whatever the fuck that line
Ordered
is.
by it.
Yeah. I think, and I'm curious to know if you have anything else different. So the list of characters I have to talk about, which we'll get into, I want to get into them specifically, are David, Bill, and then Sam and Henry. But
Yeah.
quickly to touch on David, the part where Ellie is caught by them and David is basically trying to seduce her, and Ellie gives in and like takes his hand, and then she breaks his finger, and then she's like, Ellie, and he's like, what? And he's like, Ellie is the name of the little girl that just broke your fucking finger. And I just think, I'm like, that was the moment where I went from being like, she's a cool character, to being like, this might be my new favorite video game character of all time. I adore this girl. She's such a little badass, buddy. She's awesome.
Well, and it's like you said, she is terrified of everything in this world, but she's I think she understands, like, she has this incredible burden that she's Frodo in the Ring, essentially.
Right. Yeah.
She has this like, she alone has this thing that could be the savior of humanity, and so she feels she has to be as, like, or at the very least project to be as strong as possible.
Yeah. And I don't know, maybe I'm reading too much into it, but I get the impression that she just does it like she's just, like when you're a kid and you're in a situation with a bunch of adults, and then you just try to act cooler than you are, more mature than you are, to try to impress the adults.
Yeah.
I think part of that too is like she's just trying to show that she's like, no, fuck that. I'm not scared. You know what I mean? Like, even though she is.
Yeah.
I just, she doesn't have a ton of growth in this game outside of like when Joel gets fucked up when he falls off that ledge, and oh, that fucking scene makes me cringe every time when he gets
When
that
he
fucking
gets, like, when he
rebar
gets
through his
impaled
stomach.
on the
Oh
rebar.
god. And then
And,
she
like,
like,
that's the interesting thing about this game, is because there's so much violence in this game that, you're, like, shooting zombies and getting these sick headshots and their heads are exploding, but the v it doesn't desensitize you to some of the more gruesome moments of this
no,
game,
like that part with Joel getting fucking
where
impaled is
Joel gets
disgusting.
impaled on a rebar, yeah.
Ugh. But I love that you get to play as Ellie, and it's her chance to kind of step into the spotlight and be like, I got it. And she does. And then that whole part where you play as her and she's in that fucked up winter camp with David and them. I don't know if it's so much, I don't know if I classify it as growth for her character, but it's just showing you that she's like, I'm good. Like I kept, because early in the game, she's like begging Joel to give her a gun. And he's like, no, no, no. And then finally he gives her a gun because she proves that she's like, no, I'm a fucking badass. I'll be fine. I like that part actually where she saves Joel in the hotel, and then Joel won't even give her credit. And she's like, how about thanks, Ellie? It was me or
Like, he
him.
would have died, like, he was being drowned,
Yeah.
and she saved him, and he was like, "Well, you shouldn't have done that."
Yeah. And then eventually he comes around and he's like, all right, yeah, you save me. Yeah, I don't really have a ton to add to Ellie's. I mean, eventually someday we'll review The Last of Us Part 2, and then you get a lot more growth in Ellie's character. But in this one, she's just like a sweet kid who's also a badass. I think one of my favorite parts in the game is the giraffe scene.
Which, I do need to mention, I saw the giraffe in real life the other day.
Oh, oh
Yeah,
yeah, when you
like,
were at the zoo.
the giraffe that was used in the television show, is a giraffe that lives in the Calgary Zoo, and Linnea and I are I've got, like, season passes to the zoo, so we go all the time.
That's pretty dope. I didn't know that he actually lived there. That's pretty awesome.
Yeah, no, like, that one of the giraffes in the Calgary Zoo is the giraffe from the show.
I really like that whole scene where, because like if you never played it, there's a part right near the end of the game too. They're getting close to the hospital where Ellie's gonna, and she sees these giraffes that have just, because I love all the different parts where you see these cities and you see what nature is basically taking the planet back and taking these cities back. But that part where her and Joel see the giraffes and they're petting them and she sees them for a minute. I love the rare instances where Ellie can let her guard down a little bit and just be a kid, even just for 90 seconds.
So I actually have a painting, like, I've got a painting on my wall, and it's like it's a print, but a it's a silhouette of Ellie and Joel petting the giraffe.
That's awesome.
Then it's in my living room. Yeah.
I love that scene where she just like for 1 minute can just be normal, you know.
It was
Or
just
like
like she's a kid. She's like, "Oh, like, do you remember the first time you saw a giraffe?" Just the like,
yeah,
"Whoa." Like
right. Yeah, yeah.
she gets to have that. And I feel like there's a part of the game that it's like that's what Joel got to give her.
Yeah. And there's
Joel
other
got to give
instances.
her this moment where she's a child.
Yeah. And then there's other instances like where whenever Joel finds the comic books and Ellie's into the comics, or when Ellie's got the joke books and she's telling Joel the stupid fucking pun jokes that are so bad, but
Yeah.
she loves them. I like when you see, or like there's one part where she sees a video game cabinet and she like dreams of playing it, but she knows she can't because it's not on. I
Yeah.
like those instances where you just see her be a kid for just a minute, you know? Um, I don't know. I don't, that's about it. I just loved Ellie. I don't have a lot else to say about her. I wish she could fucking swim.
Yeah.
Love the kid, but I wish she could fucking swim. So
Then I don't remember. I think she learns how to swim in the second one, but yeah,
yeah,
it's so annoying that like having to push her on the fucking
it
flat.
is the one part of the game that is just kind of like, yeah, God, all right. So then there's like, and we still haven't talked about the actual gameplay, which we'll get into in a little while, but there's some great like side characters too. Tess, we don't get to know too much about Tess. She's the woman that Joel is working with in the early going of the game.
But she gets this really fantastic arc very early on in the story, and then it's just gone.
Yeah, go ahead. What do you
Yeah.
share
So
elaborate.
we meet her. She's like Joel's partner. She's they're smuggling stuff together, and that's really all we know about their relationship. Is that they're like we don't like. There's a hint that there might be something a little bit romantic there, but
Yeah.
it's secondary to their actual relationship, which is they smuggle shit together. And of
They're two
course, like
people that can trust each other, yeah.
yes, and she's
Yeah.
kind of like Joel. We get the feeling that she's also lost a lot in her life, that she
Sure.
remembers the old world and is also kind of just old and jaded. But
Yeah.
then she meets Ellie and she gets this spark back and she understands what is here. And at this point, Joel doesn't give a fuck. He's like, whatever, this is another job. Okay, fine, we'll go do
Yeah.
this. And then in the legislature building, like they bring like she gets bit and she says to Joel, like, you have to do this.
Yeah, this is
Like, I
like for
can't go with
humanity.
you. Like, I have to die. I'm going to die now. You have to do this.
Yeah.
And we see this just like in her final moments. She leads these
The
I
infected.
the infected away from Joel so that they can escape.
Oh
And
no,
we
it's
just
not.
see
Sorry,
no,
it's not
you're
the
right.
infected, it's those soldiers.
It's I was trying to remember if it was soldiers or infected, but
Yeah,
it
it's
was yeah.
soldiers.
And we just see this in her final moments. She's sacrificed herself, and she just has that spark back, and it's that same spark that Joel gets back much later in the game.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. But I mean, because at that point she's bit too, right? Yeah, and she's bit, and she's like, "I know I'm going to die now, so I'm gonna go out in a blaze of glory and buy you time to get away, and you get out there and go save the fucking world." And Joel is just not like, this is like, okay, so I finally found one person that I can trust, and now she's dead too. And I
And
and I think I think what's going through Joel's head at that point is like, I don't even know if this world is like something I want to save.
it also is like this job not only like not like he at this point does not give a shit about this kid really, but
No.
now this kid has lost him, the only person he kind of halfway could. I don't know if he cares about Tess, but he trusts her.
Yeah, yeah, absolutely. And she's got like, I mean, everybody dreams of like the hero death, and she gets it. She's like,
Yeah,
I'll go
she
out.
sure got it.
Yeah, I'll go out saving you guys. Tess is awesome. I like Tess a lot, actually. So there's Tess, dude, Bill, and I don't want to get into how they change him in the show. So let's stay away from that, so that maybe someone that listens to this episode, maybe we convince you to go watch the show now. But they do tweak Bill a lot in the show. And
And I
his
think
episode.
The
What's
one
that?
thing I will say about the tweak is because most of the like a lot of the people, because of how the show was so verbatim to the game, that was such a pleasant and wonderful surprise the way they did to tweak Bill in the show, and it's just fantastic. If you
See,
loved the game, go see the show.
the show is fantastic. Yeah. I I'm very torn on the changes to Bill because like I do think it's a much better, nicer story. But I was so if you never played it, Bill is this guy who Joel has worked with. I don't think they ever say what Joel did to make Bill owe him a favor. I don't know if they ever say that.
I
But
imagine he saved his life or smuggled him
yeah,
something that he needed.
Jo-
It's
Bill
one of those
is
details where it's like it's there. It's not necessary for us to know the
no,
details.
it's not. No, it's not. But Bill lives in this like part of this city and he's kind of just a shut in by himself and he's gone a little squirrely over the years living in this city by himself
He's
and
booby trapped the whole thing.
yeah, he's got booby traps everywhere and he's nuts. And Joel and Ellie need a car to get across the country to get her to this hospital where the fireflies are. I think at that point they're not looking for the hospital, they're looking for Tommy, Joel's brother, who was working with the fireflies. And so they go to Bill, and Joel's thought is like, this guy will be able to get us a car. And they go there, and Joel warns Ellie, this guy's kind of crazy. Don't make any sudden movements. Don't piss him off. And then we get the whole segment where Joel gets hung upside down in the trap, and you're shooting upside down while Ellie's trying to cut you down, which I love.
Great,
And
like great part of the game.
it's awesome. And the trap is there because it's one of Bill's fucking traps. And then eventually Bill shows up, gets them out of trouble, and then they get into a pissing match and Bill agrees like, "All right, I'll see if I can get you a battery for a car, but if I can get you one, we're even." And Joel's like, "Fair enough." And the way Ellie and the thing that disappointed me about the show, again, without spoiling anything big from the show, was that we didn't get to watch Ellie and Bill fight with each other because watching Ellie and Bill yell at each other is glorious.
And that was a really interesting character dynamic there because Bill, I don't like he knows Joel. I don't know if he trusts Joel, but like he knows who he is. He
Yeah,
kind of
it's an
knows what his
uneasy alliance, I
motivations
think.
are.
Yeah.
Whereas like he doesn't know this kid, so he's like,
No.
"Who the fuck are
I
you?" Okay.
Yeah, he's like, you come in here and you fucking you take my food, and then Ellie's like, it looks like you could afford to lose some food. And Bill's like, fuck you, you little shit. And like the way they're fighting with each other. And then Bill tells Ellie, like, you don't touch anything. And then Ellie's looking at like an old record that's sitting on a desk or something. And then Bill yells at her and he's like, I told you not to touch anything. It's fucking awesome.
And I
I
thought it was
love
funny, like at the end of the Bill story, like oh, well, after we've left Bill, like Ellie has stolen one of his porno mags, and it's
yeah,
just
yeah.
like,
And the way she fucks with Joel while she's reading this porno mag, and she's like, "How do you guys walk around with these things? Oh my god!
yeah,
And why are the pages all sticky?" And then she's like, "I'm just fucking with you." Like, Ellie's the best. I will say too, the scene near the end of Bill's arc where if you explore the game, you find the letter from Frank, basically explaining that he hung himself because he didn't want to be around Bill anymore.
yeah. The letter essentially said like you're a piece of shit, and I'd rather be dead or
Yeah,
whatever.
just fucking like you feel bad because again, the writing and the acting is so good that like you start to I love Bill. I think Bill's awesome. And you really feel bad for him that like he finally found somebody to be around and then that guy hung himself rather than have to live with Bill. It's
And
sad.
it's kind of, and again, like not to get too specific into the way it gets in the show, and it's real like it is a really interesting, like the way the show does it, it's a very interesting take on that scene.
Yeah, it is. Yeah. Yeah, it is. So that's Bill. He's great. Sam and Henry are this older brother and younger brother, these two guys you run into in the city full of people trying to kill you. And the four of you form like a uneasy alliance to try to break out of this city together. And I really like Sam and Henry. I think they're a little bit too trusting for this world, but I think it works. I love the part where you go down into the sewer and find there was like a whole civilization down there, and eventually they turned and it's really fucked up when you go to the daycare and find the note that said the kids didn't suffer and it's clear that they killed all the kids before the infected could bite them. That part
Yeah,
is
like,
fucking
and
heavy.
there's so much interesting world building like that. Like a lot of kind of games will do this where they'll tell the story by like leaving notes around, and usually it doesn't make sense. But in this game, it doesn't. Like, even when it doesn't make sense, I'm willing to suspend my disbelief. Like,
Yeah,
if
it's
you like in the Horizon games, just everywhere you go, there's somebody's left a note about the world that they would have never left there, really.
right.
Whereas here, it makes sense that people are leaving these notes. They're like keeping these journals because it's keeping them from going insane.
Yeah, yeah. And I like the idea that like they knew eventually someone was going to come across the corpses of all these little kids. So they left a note to just let you know like the infected were here, they were trying to get their hands on these kids. We weren't going to let these kids become those things. But I love the part where you go into that sewer with Sam and Henry and you get split up and Joel gets paired with I think Henry the kid. Or no, Sam, the kid, Sam. And Henry gets paired with Ellie. And then you get that little bit of a dynamic between these different characters. I love that. And then I love like I'm pretty sure Sam's the kid. And Sam wants that action figure and Henry won't let him take it.
Because
And then
he's
it
like, well,
turns out
where are you going to put that? Like, where do you have
yeah.
space for that?
And then Ellie ends up taking it and giving it to him because Ellie's a sweetheart. And then you get that sad part where it turns out that Sam was bitten and he's trying to
This
bite Ellie.
And again, like, we haven't had a lot of time with these characters, but they managed to get us like, you grow attached to them a little bit, to the point where like I don't know why I didn't see it coming, but when we see that he's been bit, when that Sam's been bit,
Yeah.
I was shocked. I was like,
Yeah, yeah.
no way.
It's
What it's
sad.
like I don't know what I expected. Of course they were gonna give us something like that.
Yeah.
But what I wasn't expecting was the next part where, of course, like, this kid's been bitten, so like, and he's not showing anybody, and he's kind of like
He's trying
hiding
to
it from
hide
the
it.
group. It's the thing that you see in every zombie story is somebody's
Sure.
hiding their bite from the group, and it's like, oh, okay, yeah. And then the next morning, Ellie goes to check in on him, and this kid attacks Ellie, and the brother comes in and sees what's happened, and he shoots the kid dead, and
Well,
he
Joel
aims
Joel tries to, and he
yeah,
stops Joel. And then Joel's like, "Dude, we both like it sucks, but we both know this has to happen." And
yeah.
then he's the one that does it instead, which I get. Sorry, go ahead.
And
So he
then
shoots his brother.
he shoots his brother, and he has this moment. He's pointing the gun at Joel, and Joel's just, man, you got to put that gun down.
Yeah, just
And
trying to talk him down. Yeah.
instead of putting the gun down, he just turns it on himself and shoots it, and it cuts to black, and that's the end of the chapter, and
Yeah.
we go directly to the next season,
The next
and
phase of the game. Yeah.
holy fuck, like, what a way to end a story.
Yeah, it's fucked. And I think the reason, because you're right, you're not with Sam and Henry for very long, but I think the reason you get so attached to them is because it's just 99% of the people you deal with in this world are just horrible. And then you finally find these two guys that are like normal, somewhat nice, trustworthy, reasonable folk.
Like, they were never long for this world, but they were very nice. They were nice
Yeah.
characters.
And then this happens to them. And then Joel and Ellie, I think what they're trying to do with that is just show you that like Joel and Ellie have put up like they're callous now. They're like, yeah, everyone fucking dies. You know what I mean? Like it's what a surprise. Somebody else fucking died. Great characters though. I love Sam and Henry.
I
I
do
love that whole
too.
part where you get to work with them because you almost feel like they do in the game where you're like, hey, we have new friends. We have new people to talk to. Like it's exciting, you know?
Yeah. Yeah, and
So
like, and also, like, some of the more interesting parts of the game happen while you're with them.
yeah, absolutely. I love that whole part where you're trying to break out of that city. And then you get separated and it seems like Sam and Henry ditch you, but then they come back and save you and they're like, you can't tell us you wouldn't have done the same. And I love that whole part. Yeah, I like those guys. And then the last character I wanted to touch on was David. And he's the
Who
guy when you
He's
go
the
hunting the
closest thing
deer.
we have to, like, a main villain in this.
Yeah, so like, and he's so well done too, man, because he doesn't come across as a villain when you first meet him.
He's
Ellie's
just a
hunting
guy
that
who's like
deer.
he's trying to like do the best for like his little colony, and
Yeah, he's the leader of a group of people, and he comes across Ellie with her deer, and he's like, we have a lot of starving people back home too, and he's like, maybe we could trade you for some deer, and Ellie wants medicine to help keep Joel alive. And he's like, yeah, we'll trade you medicine for deer. And so he like gives up his gun to her, and he's trying to earn her trust, and he sends someone back to get the medicine. And then you have this whole part where like Ellie and David are trying to fight off the infected while they're living in this they're in this frozen warehouse. And so you're working with the guy, and he seems like a nice guy. And like the first time I'm playing it, of course I don't trust him because like everyone's watched shows where nice guys turn out to be evil. But I don't know who voiced him. Whoever it was that was responsible for acting as him really does a good job of making you slowly start to trust this guy a little bit.
yeah.
Like you
And
really
then-
do start to think maybe he's not that bad.
But then the twist comes,
Yeah.
and we find out
that twist is fire.
yeah, because right shortly before this, we've seen like in Salt Lake City, we see Joel and Ellie. They are attacked by like a band of cannibals, and they of course fight them off, kill them off because it's a video game.
Yeah.
And so now you're talking to David in this hut, and he kind of mentions like, funny, bunch of my guys were killed and they were attacked by a little
a
girl
guy and a little girl. Yeah.
traveling with a man.
Yeah. And you realize that like he knows that Ellie is the,
And
one
he's
of the
known
two.
for a while who this is.
Yeah. So then he gives Ellie the medicine and lets her go to go back and help Joel. But then they obviously tail her back. So then Ellie sets out to distract them and save Joel because he's dying in this basement. And then Ellie ends up getting caught by these guys. And then even after she's caught, they have her in the cage and she's watching one of them chop a human up. And David still comes in and tries to earn her trust again. And that's where they really, up until that point, they had implied, like, you realize that David is the leader of a colony of cannibals, but you don't realize that Ellie or that David is interested in Ellie.
Well, and
Like,
you kind of see like you kind of come across their like food logs where they're like, oh, we got like 200 pounds of food today, or we got like we got 150 pounds of food, and you don't really put together that these are people that they were hunting at first.
Yeah. And it's really fucked up that you took this guy, David, and he went from, hey, I kind of trust this guy, to like, wait a minute, he's the leader of these group of people that have been trying to kill us forever. Oh, wait, these people eat people. Oh, wait, he basically wants to like groom and be with Ellie. And you're like, what a horrible human being.
And you're like, oh, this is the worst. This guy's the worst. Okay.
To quote George Costanza, like, this guy's an onion. Like, the more layers you peel, the more he stinks. And then at the very end, he's one of the few boss fights in the game, and you get to fight him in that burning down restaurant as Ellie.
Yeah, like,
and I love that whole part.
There's not a lot of like boss fights per se in this game, which I actually do kind of like.
Me too. I hate boss fights.
I mean, I guess like some of the bloaters might count as bosses,
but not like David is, though.
No.
And you know what I really like about that portion with David and Ellie fighting him in the restaurant and killing him? Because Ellie does eventually literally chop him to death with a machete while Joel runs in and like pulls her off of him. But while you're hiding from him in the restaurant and fighting with him as Ellie, Joel comes to his senses and comes to that town. He tortures a few of those guys to find out where their base is, which is pretty badass. And then he comes to that town to save Ellie. And you're thinking like, I don't know about you, like, I'm playing the game and I'm like, man, I cannot wait to get my hands on David with Joel and just fucking kill him. And then you never get the chance because Ellie fucking does it.
And you know what? It's still satisfying to kill him as Ellie.
It's almost more satisfying because you're expecting like, well, Ellie's just like, she's 100 pounds soaking wet. She's a 14-year-old girl. This grown man who's killed hundreds of people is going to fuck her up. But then she kills him and you never even get the chance to kill him as Joel. And I love that part. Yeah, David is such a great
Ellie.
character.
It's a great Ellie moment.
Yeah, it really is. Um, I'm trying to think, like, I mean, we've been going for a while. I can't think of any, like, I mean, Tommy, I will say, because I know eventually there's going to be a Last of Us Part 3. I don't care what Naughty Dog says. They're doing a third one. There's too
What
much
do you
money in it.
want now? Like without spoiling anything from the second one, what do you want in Last of Us Part 3?
I don't want another story around Joel and Ellie. So
I want another Ellie story. I
see,
don't know
I'm
how much I want Joel to be involved into it. I want to see, okay, if I were in charge of making the game, it would be a time jump and we'd see Ellie as an old woman. That would be the story.
see, I'd be okay with that, but I would time jump. I want a game based on Tommy, on
Ooh,
Joel's brother.
really?
I want to know, because after the initial fallout from the beginning of the game, they get in a big fight, and Joel said his last words to me were, "I never want to fucking see you again." And then they run into each other at the hydraulic dam. I want to see what happened. Like, why did they have this falling out? How did Tommy join the Fireflies? How did he get to this dam? I would love to, because I like Tommy the character. I'd like to see more about him.
And I
Or
really like this relationship that he has with Joel.
I do too. I just want to know how it got there. So I would like to see that. Or honestly, dude, I would like to see some new characters. That is a huge world. Like, there's so many, you can introduce new characters. That said, if you told me that part 3 was Ellie, 20 years in the future, of course I'm like, yeah, it
I
doesn't, dude, literally The Last of Us Part 3 could just be like, I don't know. It could be like Ninja Turtles Part 3, like that horrible movie. And I'm like, this is a day one buy. And the minute they announced another Last of Us game, it's my new most anticipated game.
yes.
Because I love this franchise so much.
Me too. And like, but this does seem like Ellie's story, especially after part
Yeah,
2.
no question.
So
100%.
it would feel weird to not have her be a central character in whatever The Last of Us Part 3 is.
Yeah, I can get on board with that. Unless they call it something like The Last of Us, I don't know.
The
You wouldn't be
Last
able
of
to
Us
call it.
Rebirth or The Last of Us
Yeah,
Origins or
yeah,
the names they
yeah.
give games.
If they call it part 3, then it has to center on Ellie.
Yeah.
If they call it something else, they can go anywhere they want. We never even talked about the actual gameplay. One thing that a lot of people have pointed out to me is that I don't like Metal Gear Solid, but I like The Last of Us, even though they're both stealth-based games with tons of cutscenes. I don't know what it is about this game where those click with me, where the Metal Gear Solid doesn't. Because people keep asking me like, well, why don't you like this, but you like this? I'm like, my
You
short
know,
answer is that, well, The Last of Us is fun,
yeah, okay,
but
and I don't know what it is because one of my big pet peeves in games is crafting. Like I fucking hate crafting in most games. And I don't know, for whatever reason it's fun in The Last of Us
I,
because you don't spend like you don't have infinite options of things to build that you can be building. You don't have infinite variety of collectibles. It's basically you can make health packs, you can make Molotov cocktails, and then like there's a few weapons that you can unlock that you can make. But for
yeah,
the most part, you're just making like stuff to fix yourself up.
I think it's the minimal approach is nice because I agree. I hate crafting too, but it's so basic in this one that it's okay.
It's yeah, and,
Um,
like a lot of games lean so heavily on it, and it's like such a complicated mechanic that it's just like I just want to play, man. I
yeah,
don't want to have
yeah,
to like pause and spend like 20 minutes in menus so that I could like
agreed.
maybe if I upgrade this skill a little bit, like, and that's the
Yeah,
other thing. There's not any like overcomplicated like skill trees or anything like that.
no, Joel takes a little bit of steroids,
Yeah.
and that's good enough.
Yeah, like the few unlockables are like, oh, maybe an extra space in the backpack for another
Yeah,
gun, or
yeah,
oh, you
yeah.
learn another weapon that you can make.
Yeah, I think what I like about this game, and I think the reason it clicks when Metal Gear doesn't for me is because you're not punished for not going stealth. Like, you can go guns blazing if you want to. And
And
I just find it more fun. I just find it like Metal Gear, I just find it so tedious. Whereas in this one, I don't know. I don't find like I've seen people criticize and be like, I don't like The Last of Us because I don't like stealth games. But I'm like, you don't have to play this one like a stealth game. If you want to
true.
go in and just fuck people up, go nuts.
That said, the interesting thing about this game is how sparse weapons are and
Yeah,
how
and they
sparse
are.
ammo is.
Yeah, yeah, it is
I
very
mean, unless
much.
you play it on easy, which I always do anyway, but
Yeah, yeah. No, I agree with that. And then as far as the cutscenes go, and the reason I don't hate the cutscenes in this game, I just like I feel odd saying this, but I almost the amount of people that have been like, you don't like the Metal Gear Solid, but you like this. Like I don't owe anyone an explanation, but I almost feel like I do because I get hit with so many. I know it's a lame answer, and I'm not trying to troll. I just genuinely I don't find the cuts. I have no problem with tons of cutscenes if they're interesting. I don't find Metal Gear's cutscenes interesting. The Last of Us, I found all the story and the cutscenes fascinating. So for everyone that keeps asking me why I like one and I don't like the other, I just don't find those ones fun. Whereas I found this story captivating.
yeah,
I
and you know
I don't know
what?
what else to say.
That's about as much of an answer as you need to give.
Yeah, I don't know what else
It's
to
what's
say.
what's the difference? One of them's good. I don't know. Here's the thing. I've never played a Metal Gear Solid game, so I can't say. Maybe
Yeah,
I'd
you're
be one of
good.
those people that like once I played a Metal Gear Solid game, I'd be like, "What the fuck, Adam? Why don't you like these games?" But like I've never like I saw like I've seen like kind of gameplay for it. I'm like, that looks fine. There's nothing about that that makes me need to play that.
Yeah, I don't know what I don't just because people keep asking me, like, I don't know. I don't know. I just find it fun. I've seen some people complain about the controls of The Last of Us. Uh Different strokes for different folks. I can't spell my name on the character selection, like where you enter your name in a fighting game. I fuck that up. I'm so bad at those. I don't know. I find the controls in this game very it's the third person over the shoulder, and I find it works really well. I find them very responsive and they click perfectly for me. I don't know. I Did you have any problems with the controls?
Not really.
No, I found like they worked really well. I found uh the limited stealth mechanics. I'll hear an argument that the listening to where enemies are is a little bit cheesy and a little bit cheap, but I don't know.
It's
I
like
don't find it hurts the game.
it's yeah, that's not a thing that people have. It's suddenly Joel has superpowers for just in this one
He
area,
he
but
does
like,
have a little spider sense going on. Yeah.
but it's like okay, well, it enhances the gameplay a little bit. It's fine.
Yeah, I don't know what else to say. I know we haven't spent much time on the actual gameplay of the game, but like I think look, if The Last of Us was the exact same game but with a very minimalist story without a lot going on, I would still like it. But I truly think if it was just based on gameplay, it's like a 7 or 8 out of 10. I think it's that story is really what like that's the
The
secret
story,
sauce.
yeah. If this game didn't have the story that it did, we wouldn't be talking about it the way we were. This is a story-driven game. Not to say that the game's not fun. Like all of the big action set pieces are a lot of fun. Again, I wasn't huge on some of the like in between like environment puzzles. Some of them were kind of like, okay, you're really stretching to like find something for us to do, but yeah, like the story is really what brings this home.
Yeah, agreed. One last thing before we wrap up. Have you ever I very, very rarely play DLC. It's well known around here. Have you ever played the Left Behind DLC, the Story Valley?
No, I did watch the episode of the TV show that like covers it
Okay.
verbatim now.
It's pretty solid. I mean, you guys know me. I'm never gonna I would be hypocritical out the ass to be like, you need to play this DLC when I literally never play DLC. But if you do love The Last of Us, it's included with most of the new editions. It's only about 3 hours long, and it splits between Ellie trying to help Joel after he gets hurt at the university, and Ellie how she got bit. And it's pretty good. It's pretty good. It's just more of the same, but it's pretty good. Are we good? Have you got anything else you want to? I feel good. I hope we did this game
I feel
justice.
like well, I mean we've been talking about it for like an hour and 10 minutes now. I think yeah,
Yeah,
I
we've been
think we
going for a
good.
while. I fuck what a great game. Just sorry, actually, Mark. When did you? Because I remember you did not play this game until after Remember the Game started, eh? Like you
Well,
were a
yeah,
latecomer to Last of Us.
I was a pretty yeah, I did come to this game fairly late.
Because I remember you telling me you'd never played it, and I was choking on my own rage here, as the kids say. And I was like, for the love of God, Mark, play this game. And
Well,
then I
because
remember
I
you
had a
did play it.
PS3, and I bought a PS3 mostly so I could play Skyrim.
Right.
So I eventually I was like, well, it's one of those games that it's like everybody's saying it's one of the best games of all time, and like, sure, it's another zombie game, and I'm sure it's gonna be just fucking great. And then of course I played it, and I was like, that's one of the best games I've ever played. Holy fuck.
Yeah. I remember you telling me that. I think you and I were driving to a gig somewhere, and you're like, I finally played The Last of Us. And I was just like, oh, fuck. Please, nobody get offended. But I was like, this must be what it feels like when like a religious person gets someone else to come to their church. Like that was how I felt. I was like, oh, come in, my son. Come talk The Last of Us with me, please.
Yeah.
You know, I was so glad you joined the Church of Last of Us. What a great game. We got to, I mean, I don't even give a fuck what the scoring system is. Like, let's just say out of 300, because it's episode 300.
300? Okay. I'll give it 295 out of 300.
Okay. Is it losing points for the puzzles?
It's losing points for some of the environment puzzles, yeah.
All right. I can't not, I have to give it the 300. I can't not, it's The Last of Us, man. If Super Mario World and Tetris didn't exist, this will be my favorite video game of all time. I have to. I just finished replaying it. I've probably, it came out 11 years ago, and I've probably played through it 6 times now. And it has yet to bore me at all. I'll never stop playing it.
I play it about once a year.
It's brilliant.
And like that's
brilliant.
it. I don't play the second one with as much frequency. Again, like the second one, but that for the first one was perfect.
I've only ever played the second one time, but I liked it, but I'm going to do a second playthrough of it soon. I think I'm going to find time.
I've played it twice. It's pretty good. Like it's still really good that second time, but
Yeah.
it's coming in the unenviable position where it has to follow The Last of Us Part 1, which is, as we've been saying, a near perfect video game.
That's its problem. Is it's the first game just casts a big fucking shadow. Oh boy, fuck! I love this game so much. I don't even know what else. You know what? I'm at a part of the problem blank. When the PlayStation 6 could come out, and they'd be like, "Oh yeah, our only launch title is The Last of Us Part 1 Definitive Edition," and I'd be like, "Here's another $90, you motherfuckers," because
like
I'll never stop buying.
There's a little bit of extra ray tracing.
Yeah. But Ellie's got a new hat. Like it's like,
she's got a new hat.
That's all it would take, and I'll be like, "Fine, here you go. It's The Last of Us." Okay, we're gonna get out of here, and I'm gonna do a big bunch of thank yous, like a sap, to wrap up episode 300. But while I have you on the air, buddy, you have been with this show for 299 weeks, because you were there on episode, I guess technically it was episode 3, because episode 2 was the Ninja Turtle one that is gone forever. But
okay.
It doesn't matter. You've been around for the whole run of this show, and the show would not be where it is without suckers like you spending your time talking to dumbasses like me. So, buddy, thank you so much for all the time you have put into Remember the Game. I really appreciate it.
Always down to talk video games, Adam.
Appreciate it, buddy. And that is going to do it for this week's episode. Mark, thank you so much for giving me a call and talking The Last of Us. And as I spent 5 minutes saying at the beginning of this episode, probably 2 hours ago by now, thank you to all of you for getting us to 300 episodes. I am so grateful for your support. And here's to 300 more. And because I know people are going to call me out if I don't reference it, did somebody say a perfect game? There it is, 300 episodes. Next week, we'll be back with episode 301. Probably going to be Little Nemo, the Dream Master for the NES. And we have some big episodes lined up probably for later this summer. Donkey Kong 64 is coming. Mass Effect 3 is coming. I'd really like to cover Fallout, but we'll see if I can get through that in time to cover this summer, because fucking Mass Effect 3 is a goddamn undertaking and a half, and God knows where else we'll go. Have no fear. We've got stories for years. I'm going to thank some Patreons and get out of here. Thank all of you so much. Don't forget our merch sale is running until the end of July at RememberTheGamePodcast.com. Use the code Molly300 to save 20% on your order. I'm on Twitch, twitch.tv/remember the game. We have a P.O. box. You can find it at rememberthegamepodcast.com. And if you enjoy the show, leave us a nice review because they offset the mean ones from people that hate me. All right? I'm going to thank some patrons, and I'm leaving. Thank you again so much to all of you for getting us here. And I'll see you next week for Remember the Game 301. Cheers, so long, goodbye. Remember the Game is brought to you by our Patreons. I could not puke up all the content I churn out every week without all of your support. The following people are at the senior executive vice president level or higher at patreon.com/rememberthegame, and as such, I am contractually obligated to thank them as quickly as possible. So a huge thank you to Remember the Game Hall of Famer Slick Motherfucking Rick, Makeshift Mellow, Magic Money, Joe Buck, Sharonic, J Nasty 15, The Keegs, James Clark, Dave McGee, Dan of Dissect That Film, Doug Dorn, Chris Fleury, Andrew Wright, Confused But Still Her, Little Bunny Fufu 89, Angry Ticks, Dave Thompson, No One Cares, Scott Brooks, Aaron Lawson, Nathan Tremblay, A-Town, Morgan, Zane Donovan, Ryan Kinchin, Mike Maloney, G9 PSX, Mercury 869, Wolfgang, Darren, Andy Hudson, Doogie, Wolf Magic 21, Johnny from Virginia, Squints, Titan 420, Zonko 504, Jeff Bergeron, Daniel, John Woodruff, Randy Barrage, Just a Fish, Joel Did Nothing Wrong. Ooh, I don't know. Holmes, Zach Shepard, Frosty Feet 492, Triple, Chucker 22, Elijah Burns, Madam Nudsitch, DBXJ, Jameer Williams, Steve Dalk, Standard Ass Brian, Mizuru, Juris Dr. Mario, Tyler, Phil Lencher, Joe the Sandman, Eric James, Jake Carter, Thomas Childs, Biddy, Laces Out Damn, Beaver Boy, Thomas Smith, Leroy Westrich, Rush's Dog Walker, Stud Steel Smash, Brant Hewitt, Matt Babinu, Gabe, Dan Fusselman, Fuzzy 99, Decoy Man, a dude named Adam, Wyatt the Surgeon Who's Not a Surgeon, Rowe, Blaine the Hoagie Man, Scary Terry, Archangel Otaku, Earl, Hagel Waffle, High Plains Drifter, Esteban Navarro, K-Hatch, Jimothy, Oroku Saki's Gardener, Cody Richardson, General Fury, Them Boys on the Roof. I cancel my Netflix to afford this shout out. Max Lagroom, James Juan Francesco, John of the Adult Children Podcast, Drugs of Bad MK, Sam Carpenter, Donnie the Dude Walter, Nerdy Hybrid, The Fletchman, Sleeper Hit, Squeak Nuts, Isaias, Timmy the Exuberant Turtle, Wimp 15, Christian Gabriel, Maverick Marty, Radioactive Man, Musty Beetle, Graham Kennedy, John M. Watkins, Timothy Sabrinsky, My Left Nut, Beef Dingleberry, Hitchy Poo, Burt Macklin, Quiet Place Queen, Cam Nelly 23, Christopher Britt, Zamatos, Big the Cat, Tadpole, T-Bear 87, Maverick, Brendan DeZeba, Kia Pup, Monstrous the Boner, A.B. Killen Works for Me, Alexander Camps, Yes It's True, This Man Has No Dick, Thomas Edward Houlihan III, Ted Explosion, Ryan Perry, Alex R, Lucas Valadez, Itchy Nutsuru, Just Car Pranks, Rated X, Darth Skywalter, Postman, Tazelhoft, Nick Creature, Youngster TK, Adam Martinet, The Big Deal, Kevin Monroe, Can't Destroy Her, Fantasy Final, Beers of War, Because 19, Marcus Mendoza, Lord Longrod von Hugendom II, Roger Staubach's Pool Cleaner, Lucas Shaman, Frosty Bear, Max Sandin, Sour Goat Face, Alex Ramos, Faded Sufferance, Benjamin Atkins, Carbon Fiber Zombie, Chris Hill, There Is No Cake, Mellow Yellow 8787, B Money, Tyler Bauer, Fallen Snow Kiku, The Supreme Chozorizo, Would You Kindly, E-Man Trucker, Mark Sneed, Atrio Wormwood, Shoeboxers, Adam Blank, still hasn't reviewed Mario Galaxy, Jay Callahan, Robbie Air, Guy Who Does Things, Saban, Brian Richmond, Blobby Rogers, Glue Scappin, Bula, Adam Blank's Evil Twins, Doppelganger's Clone, Matt Zeus, Plow King, says, I can't do it, the voice is cracked. Cesar, Fill Up My Mouth With Farts, Liquor Like Luigi, Cody Thompson, Puts It in H, Chaz Hammond, Elephant Calves, Ace Magai, Mr. Jabroni, Big Daddy Randall, Ryan Whitcomb, Flinny123, AJ McCurgy, Lotus, Nothing Could Possibly Go Wrong, Toby OP, Scotty McGee, Alex McIntyre, Z Train 22, S. Eric Hopewell, Darbles, Sire of Sarah, David Schroeder, Theodore, Chicken Gizzards, Diablo Spartan, Justin Blair, Wilco, VOS Rager, Super Jess, Captain Steve N., Adam's former assistant, Ryan Stemmerding, Shank the Rat-Faced Bastard, Crystal Lake Management, Leo, Desirith, Super Saiyan, Sephiroth, Savage Boosh, Robert Underdunk Terwilliger Jr., PhD, Gonzo for Sheriff, and Combo Chuck. Not a bad batch of shout-outs. I appreciate all of you. And then, you know what? Molly's had a lot of very expensive medicine lately, and you all paid for it. So Molly appreciates you too. Thanks so much, everybody. Talk to you later. Cheers.